Get my microphone on. Thank you. Good evening. It is 6 o'clock, so we're going to call this City Council meeting to order. If everyone would please stand. At this time, we will have a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll ask Councilman Michael Crisp if he will lead us in pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Again, council members, if you're not talking, please make sure your microphones are turned off, and when you're going to speak, please make sure they're turned on. Good evening to each of you, and welcome to Georgetown City Council meeting for Monday, February the 9th, 2026. We're here to conduct business for the city of Georgetown. That being said, that when you're bringing business to this council, be sure to come to the microphone and be sure to speak loudly and give us your name, especially when we talk about the time for public comments. So we will go with the agenda as written, and at this time, Madam Clerk, if you have the roll call.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Wilkins-Brent.
Here.
Mr. Crisp.
Here.
Mrs. Hamburg.
Present.
Mr. Hampton.
Here.
Mr. Minke.
Present.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell.
Here.
Mrs. Tingle Sains.
Here.
Mr. Stone.
Here.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Minke.
I have a motion for a walk-on. Before we proceed, I'd move to place on tonight's agenda the municipal order approving the purchase of Power DMS subscription services for the Georgetown Police Department. This was reviewed in our committee for the last 2 months and was recommended but failed to make it to the agenda.
Okay. All right, let me go in order here. All right, so a request motion has been made and second made by Ms. Sands. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. We will add that as a walk-on to this agenda.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Item 3, the approval of minutes for February 4th, 2026, special city council work session. At this time, I will entertain a motion to accept those. Motion made by Ms. Hambrick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Ms. Sames. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that it passed. Item 4, receipt of the check registry. Council, if you have received that electronically or have reviewed it, please raise your hands. Let the record reflect that all have received. At this time is public comments. Item number 5. On public comments, you will have 4 minutes, which you state your business to this council. Madam Clerk will time you in that 4 minutes. At 3-minute mark, she will let you know that you have exactly 1 minute, and we ask at that 1 minute time that you be respectful and that you finish and take your seat so we can also have others come up to the microphone to speak. Once again, be sure to pronounce your name as for the record. And Mr. Steve Price, you're up.
Thank you. I'm Stephen Price, and you say there are going to be others who approach the microphone. I think I'm the only one. Am I not?
There will be others.
Oh.
You're up right now.
Okay. All right. I ran across a publication of the National Association of Counties. I realize you work interlocally with the county government, and I recall a meeting at the library, an interlocal meeting, when either you, Mayor Jenkins, or Judge Covington made a statement and the statement was, the purpose of government is to deliver services. Was that you, Mayor Jenkins, or was that Judge Covington? Do you remember? You don't remember?
Well, I do remember, but, this is not a debate and so on, but go ahead and continue
Well,
on.
in any case, services, you share with the county a commitment to delivering services. At least that was the impression I got from the comment I heard at that meeting at the library. And I've got here, I'm going to read to you from what his man's name is Taryn Zamuda. He's the National Association of Counties Chief Research Officer and Chief Economist. He says, counties, and because we are interlocal with the county, I think you can agree that the town, a small town government like this one, and the small town government of Scott County share similar strategies, similar mission. What Mr. Zamuda says, he says, counties' distinct position is rooted in a pragmatic approach to on-the-ground service delivery. It's a mindset of keeping the car assembled, fueled, and tuned for operation. That is the mindset of a motorist. And I'm proud to say, and happy to say, that I have not driven since 1999, although for 25 years I did drive, I did all my own mechanic work, so I know a little bit about motor vehicles. One of the best moves I ever made in life was quit driving. So I don't look for services to be delivered to me, and I don't look to deliver services, because since I don't drive anymore, I'm looking for what I can handle. I'm a handyman. I don't have a steering wheel in my head and in my hands and in my consciousness all the time like Mr. Zamuda does and like most people do who drive. And I'm going to show you what I found out. When I quit driving, you were talking about Fire Chief Johnson and the council are discussing strategies for fire abatement.
3 minutes.
And I wrote Seth Johnson a letter a couple of years ago. I said the quickest, easiest way to fight fire is to give people tax incentives to put a 5-gallon bucket in every corner of every room of their house. And that 5-gallon bucket sits there all the time full of water. If there's a fire, there's 20 gallons of water in each room available to fight the fire. I never heard from Mr. Johnson. And the second thing I found out, if you'll look at the paper I left there for you, you know what accessory dwelling units are, don't you, Mr. Fleming? It's a big topic of conversation, accessory dwelling units. Mr. Johnson Seth Johnson, the fire chief, wrote a letter in the news graphic, said the biggest source of fire fatalities is overnight fires while people are asleep. The biggest cause of fires is electrical malfunction. This is an accessory dwelling unit built out of grass.
That's 4 minutes.
I built this out of grass because I quit driving. I had something to do with my hands. I learned how to build a house out of grass.
All right.
And it's outside the electrical circuit. So
Thank
there's
you.
no fire. The people who sleep there are at no risk of fire.
Thank you, Mr. Price. All right, next is Mr. Jay Griffin, Old Oxford Road.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, Council. Hello, citizens of Georgetown that might be watching this or read about in the newspaper. I've lived on Old Oxford Road for over 20 years, and when I moved there, a lot less traffic. They didn't have all the developments. The last 5 years, the growth has it's 20 times what it used to be. The traffic going up and down this road is crazy. It used to be the speed limit was 25, now it's 35. Like I say, my property is a triangle-shaped lot. My front door is only about 35 feet from the edge of Old Oxford. I have no backyard. It's all on the sides. The only way to safely and legally to enter in next to my driveway safely is to back in. Statistics show law enforcement and insurance, there's more accidents from backing out and from driveways and parking spaces than anything else. I don't know, it may be handheld devices now, but that's been a standing statistic. Many companies require that. So my subject I put on was Old Oxford Road. I know this is not a answering question session, but I put down why in capital letters, Mayor. The reason for that is I'm at wit's end. I nearly got hit twice more today. It happens about every day. One driver and vehicle, they do this all the time, so they know I back in my driveway. But how come I have only received one speeding ticket in my life that I remember, and it was in my mid-20s on the interstate, and I was going too fast. The road was clear, though. The road conditions were excellent, but I was. But I do not speed in town. I do stop at stop signs. I do stop at red lights before turning red. But for some reason, the mentality of many drivers is, oh, you're slowing me down for that second. What is your right to do this? Well, it's safety and it's following the law. Like I say, I have not had any speeding tickets. Driving around town, Georgetown, I'm from Lexington originally. I've lived in cities all over the country when my previous work sent me on the road. I seem to not be able to get in and out of my driveway without people coming up behind me. It happens all the time. I've contacted the authorities, nothing. People just seem like they got to rush up behind me, right on my bumper when I'm driving within the law. And then, especially when they know I have to stop, there's a double yellow line. There's no way to just back in. I mean, there's no room on that road. I've got two vehicles, including one's a 1-ton large dually. I've got a camper and a tri-tune. So I do have to back in a lot. But people, I think intentional, will just try to pass me. I've been in 2 accidents right in front of my driveway in the last 4 years. One just up the road. All were people committing driving infractions. One time, why did the police come out and start blaming me? Look what you've done. I don't understand that. How come I can't go down Cherry Blossom in the left lane, ready to turn left, within 4 miles of the speed limit, and I have a police officer following me the whole time? People follow me on the right, and the police officer pulls me over. I get my driver's license and my registration. He never asked for that. He says I'm impeding traffic. I said, sir, no, I wasn't. I'm not on a limited access highway. He said, yes, you are. I said, no, the law states. He said, well, show me the law. And I said, he didn't ask for my driver's license and registration. I said, well, why are you detaining me? Oh, just to talk. And then he goes back to his vehicle. Why can a person not follow the traffic laws without being harassed and your safety being put in life? All this is verifiable, and I have many videos and audio recordings as documentation, as I've told the police and I've told the mayor's office before. But nothing can be done. All I'm asking is the citizens in the Old Oxford Road corridor, and maybe law enforcement, to please do something. I've lived there. I'm scared to death of driving, and I know I'm being targeted. I've been assaulted 3 times because of following the law. That's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Dan Holman.
Hi there, Dan Holman from Georgetown. I wanted to talk about the Royal Springs Park and protecting Royal Springs Park in the context of the sewer project that's going on, the large Deshay sewer project that was recently moving forward, and that is replacing the sewer line on South Water Street and across Main Street, down on North Water Street, all the way to the park. So one fact that just hadn't come out, the News Graphic, published an article recently that you all probably saw about moving the cabins removing one cabin that's at the park and then moving the leach cabin at the park because of the sewer project. And I don't think that hadn't been mentioned in the November 10th council meeting when this project was explained to you all. They said there will be some disruptions at Royal Spring Park, but the actual disruptions weren't. We didn't know we were going to be moving around cabins. And I think when some people saw this article and found out, they're upset about it. So this is just a topic that deserves some public conversation. It's a public park, and what happens in public parks is a matter for the public to discuss and to talk about. Okay, so basically what's going on there is there's a 15-inch sewer line that goes right down the middle of Water Street, and there's another 24-inch line that goes beside it. So, and ideally, you could ask Chase, what is the best place to put a sewer line? So whatever sewer line we put in to replace these old ones will probably be here for the next 100 to probably 200 years. This is the location of the sewer line, and is diagonally right through the middle of Royal Springs Park, the best place for it. When you have to have a big manhole cover there, and probably the reason that the leach cabin is not going to be replaced to where it is because they want to keep that open for big equipment to get in the park to maintenance the manhole. And that's just a question, to ask. Will this park be continually accessed by large equipment because of this sewer line? So the best place for the sewer line, if you just could snap your fingers and put it where you want it, is probably right down the middle of Water Street. So that's a question for you all to ask, is that would cause some disruption to Water Street, but then for 200 years, that you'd have your water line right where you want it, and it's the best place to have it. So maybe that's the better solution than the park, and could you all just ask for other alternatives to be looked at? Also, in the newspaper, there was an article, there was a letter to the editor by James Long, who I believe was a previous director of the water company. And he just mentioned this book about Royal Springs and Royal Springs Park. And he referenced how this is a very good book for everybody to read. Bluegrass, Paradise, Royal Spring, and the Birth of Georgetown, Kentucky by Gary Odell. And it was just recently published, so it has some pretty up-to-date stuff. And it talks extensively about Royal Spring Park and the importance of this park that I hope, I'm trying to impart upon the council. Royal Spring Park is an important park that we need to not just behind the scenes decide to build a sewer line right through the middle of it. You all need to decide, is that really what you want to do? That's the full four? Oh, thank you. So in this book, they talk about, so Royal Springs Park it was called the Town Commons for 200 years. It was the center of the town activity for over 200 years. And Glenn Tall is here tonight to talk about historic stuff. So this Royal Springs is a very important part of our history. Since 1909, it's been specifically a park that's supposed to be aesthetically pleasing. And this geological spring was mentioned here as worthy of being a state park or even a federal park. Could we please, realize that Royal Spring is very important, and could there be a public conversation about what we do there? And could there be alternatives presented to this sewer project, and we can decide which alternative you all want to do, because that is ultimately your all's decision. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there no other that had wanted to come for public comments? Thank you. So I've got a few comments to make, and then we'll get to our next section after that. We have a few other people here that wants to speak. So first of all, let me first talk about the storm, which we had again. Chief Bruin is here, and I want to publicly thank him and his crew for the outstanding job. We started on that Friday night, and I think they worked from Friday all the way through to a point where we even working together to actually get the streets cleared so that Scott County Schools could have school. And matter of fact, we were one of the only school district nearby that actually had school last Thursday. So that's because of what they have done. And I publicly want to say to you all, well done, thank you. They've already had 2 major storms, and each one of those you all have stepped up to the plate. When people in other communities are talking about Georgetown and actually what you all did in getting the roads safely where people could travel, I want to give you an applause for that, because that is well done. Thank you very much. An update on Marshall Park project is completed. The bathrooms are completed. As you all know, that we had some issues getting it started, but we now got it done. I had an opportunity to go in to take a walkthrough, and it was really top notch. And I think the football program and Scott County, Georgetown, Scott County Parks will be pleased with this and the effort that was put in with that. So that being said, I'm glad to see that's done. There have been a lot of talk about cabins. One thing I want to say is this. This is a project which has to be done. And you're talking about where you want to put it. They're the experts. We have had conversation with the city engineer, myself, Parks and Rec, and what's the best place to do it? Well, you got to look at, where the least amount of disruption. Yeah, you probably could put it down in the middle of the street there, but you will disrupt that hole for months. And you got businesses down there that we have to be concerned with. But in talking with them and everybody talking together, the best place is what they're going to do in Royal Spring Park. Now, that being said, whatever they do to the park, they're going to fix it back the way it is. And one of the things about moving those cabins, and I'm going to make a recommendation, not tonight, but next week, I'm going to bring you a proposal saying that what I would like to see happen is this. The leach, which is the most historical one, that we actually keep. And we can actually, and Chase, correct me if I'm wrong, we can actually take that leach one, kind of move it, and put it right back where it was. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so what I'm going to bring to this council for their consideration, a proposal to do that, plus the one where we got, I think, from Shelbyville, it is in bad shape. But we do have somebody that want it, and that's Stamping Ground. But that is part of city property and it's surplus. So this council will have to give me permission to actually do that, to put it on surplus, to actually give it to, or surplus it to Stamping Ground. And it will stay in the county. And I think they got a good place for that. So stay tuned with that. I'll bring something back to you on the next meeting which highlights that. Okay?
Just a question on that. Tourism has been involved in the conversation?
Yes, tourism has, yes. And there are some other things that we're going to do. And, even talking with Parks and Rec, they're going to do some really uplifting things at Royal Spring Park. And those cabins might come back into play. So I'm working on that as we speak. All right? All right, next, on council, you're going to be receiving a calendar invite for February 26th, 4:30 here. We're going to have the City Council and Fiscal Court work session for the long-term water supply update. So you'll be getting an invite. But the 26th of February, 4:30, it will be here. All right. Next, on February 21st, they're going to be an event, but I'll come back to that in a few minutes. I'm going to kind of go out of order a little bit before I bring Mr. Tall up. Item B is the 2026-27 budget schedule, and I'm going to I'll present it to you. And so what will happen is in this meeting, we'll make sure that you all get a copy of that. If you have not received it, you'll get it. And plus, you will get, I think we'll put it online and also, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So per the ordinance that's adopted to govern the budget preparation process, this is being provided to you all tonight, and it will be published in the local newspaper by our city clerk following tonight's meeting. But that was included in your all's packet, yes, sir, and will be published per the ordinance.
Thank you, Devin.
Yep.
Okay, next, and then I'll bring up Mr. Tall in just a minute. He's going to give us an update on, and he may talk a little bit about this, so I'm stealing some of his segue on this. Saturday, February 21st, 2026, at Georgetown College at 1 o'clock, as part of the Black Historical, History Month. They're having a big event. I think they have some gospel singers, some information about the history of that. So I teed it up for you, Mr. Tall, so I'll let you come on up and talk about the item A, the 250th anniversary of Georgetown founding events update.
So I distributed to you all a packet of 3 documents. The first one is what's going on right now this month, and the mayor just referred to one of the events that's being put on by Echoes of Our Ancestors at John L. Hill Chapel at Georgetown College. It's going to take place from 1 o'clock to around 5 o'clock, so it's going to be a lengthy thing, and it's going to be about the place of gospel music. One of the things it's going to be about gospel music and its place in not only Black history, but American history and also the city of Georgetown, so that's going to be great. The other, the first document is the calendar of February events. So there's an exhibit going on now at the library, and I saw it today, there's panels up talking about black pioneers in the racing profession. And they're going to have two book discussions related to the exhibit, one's for children and one's for adults. So, and then the museum has a continuing exhibit going on right now, beginning at the beginning of geologic history of Georgetown and going up through the early history of Georgetown. I don't have the copy that you have. I didn't make enough copies for some reason. I miscounted. Thank you. I just wanted to point out the highlights quickly. And then one of the things that I have been working with a very energetic young man called Tristan Black. He got on this schedule. He's working with students over at the two high schools, and the students initiated this whole community debate night on the 19th of February. I'm going to attend. So, and they're just going to talk about local issues from their perspective. And so that's basically for February. You all asked for a list of projected events that may not necessarily be the schedule hasn't been finalized yet. But one of the things that I'm getting, well, let me back up a minute. We were planning to have two events last month. One was about lobbying, how citizens should lobby their government to affect policy. The other one was something we were going to talk about. Well, now I'm giving a senior moment. That's, but anyway, but weather and other things intervene. We're going to be meeting this week to reschedule those. The student event we were going to have at Great Crossings, we're going to have later this month, and we just got to reschedule that. So that's just all I wanted to say about that. Then one of the things I scheduled for March is y'all will be interested in hidden secrets of the hidden history of Kentucky political scandals. That's going to be sponsored by the Kentucky Historical Society. That's one thing. Then we are planning, we're starting the plan with tourism and Old Friends Farm and the Parks and Rec to have an outdoor showing of Seabiscuit on the property of Old Friends. They're going to give mini tours and then have a showing of Seabiscuit outside. So Parks and Rec's going to provide the screening and some of the equipment related to that. One of the things I'm really excited about, and this is as a result of Councilwoman Mitchell's suggestion, is so the Scott County Historical Society is going to have an oral history interview program of all celebrating the 100th anniversary of Garth School. We're going to have an oral history interview of 5 people from different generations. And we've got a great lineup. Fire Chief Seth Johnson's on it, Judge Lusby's on it, Emily Porter's on it, Clyde Wilkins is on it, and Anthony Palmer is going to be on it. So that'll be that's the hour-and-a-half portion. But because of Councilwoman Mitchell's suggestion, we're going to have a chili supper. And then we're going to have, and the PTO is going to get involved, so I'm just really excited about that. That'll be a whole evening, and that's going to be September the 17th. So I just wanted, and I got word today from our playwright in Cynthiana. She's starting on the play, to write the play about Georgetown mostly, but Scott County will come in there at some point too. And then, so that's some of the big things. And then, of course, another project that's come, I'm always looking for projects to add to the program. And Councilwoman Hambrick suggested a tree planting, a special tree be planted somewhere in the city related to the 250th anniversary. And I had another, she mentioned to somebody, and that person approached me, well, where do you want to plant the tree? The only thing I can think of is the Garth School property somewhere in the front there or the side park there. And then we can have a special, and then we might just combine that with the Garth School celebration too, and just have a big old time. So that's in the offing. So this is, and then the last thing that I wanted to do, the last document had, so since 2017, there has been 13 books published that have something to do about Georgetown or Scott County. And Mr. Holman mentioned one, Bluegrass Paradise, which is a very good book. Richard, so I'm giving you a list, and I'm hoping that if you all have connections with a book club in the community or something of that nature, and they want to devote their reading about local books, I'm giving you a list to do that. And I'm just amazed. And of course, one of them is Judge Lusby's memoirs from the columns he's written over the years. But there's just a recent book on reinventing the American thoroughbred, which is about Alexander Keene Richards, and his Bluegrass Farm was just up the street where Tucker Yoakum funeral home is. The Historical Society is going to request that a historical marker be placed on Broadway near Rucker, because that's the only place you can pull over and look at the sign. If up on West Main, you can't do that. So that's just some of the things that we're thinking about, and I just wanted to bring you up if you all have any questions.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Yep. Well, I definitely want to thank you for your hard work, and your team and everybody that's putting together, all these amazing events. This 250th anniversary is a great way to not only celebrate our city's past, but to also reinforce all of the things that make Georgetown special moving forward. One quick question. I know you mentioned Garth School. Are there any other local schools or civic organizations or small businesses, local businesses that you are working with that you haven't already mentioned, moving forward this year?
I'm trying to work with Katie Prather about commemorating some of the long-term businesses downtown. So we're working on that kind of a thing.
Great.
Yeah, there's some other organizations and businesses we're trying to work with on that.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Mr. Tall, just for your knowledge, I think this is the year that the time capsule at Southern Elementary is open.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think it's in May, I believe.
Who
but-
could I contact?
Principal at Southern.
Okay, I will contact.
Yeah, you could do that, or contact Mr. Billy Parker with
Okay,
Scott County
okay.
Schools, and let him know that that's what you want to do, get permission, and then I think he will direct you to do that.
Okay.
Okay?
I
Now-
was involved in that. Oh, my gosh.
Is this celebrating like 50th anniversary or something of that nature?
They, 1976, they did the
Yeah.
time capsule, and all the students participated.
All right.
And take credit, and this is the year it comes up, so.
Okay. Well, I'll contact him. Do you think they will do it this semester or the next semester? Okay, I'll contact him.
Yeah,
But I just know it comes up this year.
that would,
Okay, and someone had suggested that we do a time capsule now,
Oh, that's a good idea.
just about the city of, so we're having a meeting next Tuesday, so we'll bring that subject up.
and once again, Mr. Tall, thank you so much for that update. Again, especially, again, I would just let you know that, again, if you would contact Scott County Schools, and they can direct you to the principal and get that all set up and get the information you need from there.
And there's
So-
just one more thing. There are at least 2 teachers in, one's a gifted and talented teacher, and one is a magistrate, Chad Wallace. They're working on biographies of the Revolutionary War soldiers that are buried in Scott County.
Oh,
So we're having to have that at some point. That's not as public as some of the other events were, but I'm hoping to have that, publish that kind of thing at the end of all this. So,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Tall, for your hard work and also getting us updated on some of the historical events that's coming on for this 250th birthday of Georgetown. All right. Next, we have council committee reports, and on tonight, we have all four of you all up and running. So I'm just going to pull one out of the hat. Since I'm looking at you, Mr. Stone, I'll let Public Works go first.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
January 21st, Public Works Committee met at Burton Street, Police Department, 4:30, with all members present. We approved the minutes, and then got right into the heart of the matter. Biggest thing was the snow event that was forecasted for that weekend, which we're still dealing with today.
I think you.
Talked about the salt inventory. Sorry. Thank you. Talked about the salt inventory and that Chief Bruin had more salt on order. And we discussed the snow routes, the state of emergency declaration, even reaching out to Scott County Schools to open up schools if we needed warming shelters above what we had. So that was a lengthy discussion, but that was the highlights of it. Up next was Eddie Hightower and engineering update, which Clubhouse Drive, plans are being worked on at this time, and so we'll know more as the coming days. Sidewalk brick rehab project will be presented to consideration at January 26th council meeting, but I think it's on for tonight. It is. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Traffic calming implementation, going to start with Tier 1 projects in the very near future. Also, the Indian Hills stormwater, it's slowly coming around, cleaning out ditches. Once the weather breaks, then they'll really get into that. As we heard, the Marshall Park bathrooms are now up and using. Spring football will be here soon. TAP grant project reported that is in the design phase, and that it's a 30% match, I believe.
That's correct.
So, and then in general discussion, grading for the Lanes Run Business Park, Phase 3 is underway. We discussed about a new street sweeper coming up with the cost of approximately $400,000, which we will probably be voting on next and bringing before council. The Old Oxford Bridge project, Finance Director Clark brought it up. Also reported that the Washington Street sidewalk project is in the works as well. So, and we adjourned at 4:54 that afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stone. Ms. Hammer, you have a report on fire? Oh, excuse me.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Thank you for your snow removal report. Is there a scheduled reflection on that activity to be able to reflect and improve?
I'm going to bring that up in council comments, so I want to get with Chief Bruin and everyone and see if we can't schedule another Public Works Committee in addition to the one, just to talk about the snow event, kind of do
Great.
a
Great.
review of it, see what we can get done, so.
All right.
Thank you. All right. All right. Fire. Yes, ma'am. Fire.
Thank you, sir. We met for the fire committee on January 22nd, and everyone was present. We approved the minutes. Recruit graduation was announced to be February 6th, and it was on February 26th. I was there. It was a wonderful ceremony. We had the most recruits, I think, in the history of the fire department. There were 10. And it was a very special evening, so I was glad to be there to see that. The Kentucky Task Force was the next talked about, and the General Assembly approved funding for this statewide task force under the Kentucky Urban Search and Rescue Division. And they're responsible for responding to disasters statewide and providing services and relief to authorities under the jurisdiction where the disasters occurred. So many members of the Georgetown Fire Department actually applied for this, and 6 were selected to be on the statewide task force. So it's a really good opportunity for them to have growth and advancement and to receive training, but to give service to the rest of the state foremost. The fire marshal position was posted, but again, there's an update there because correct me if I'm wrong, but Corey Thomas has been chosen as the new fire marshal, and I believe he started February 2nd. So Station 1 update, IT work has probably begun at this point, but it said it would begin soon. And it was one of the final things that need to be done for the command station to be moved fully into Fire Station 1. Mid-year budget requests will be reflected for the fire department. They're requesting $125,000. $100,000 is to repair the concrete apron, I guess it's called, in front of the fire station, which is deteriorating and it can cause some damage to the vehicles going in and out. And also $25,000 for building maintenance that is needed. They're going to do something that I think is really necessary. They're going to do a complete facility condition assessment and develop a 3 to 5 year capital needs response so that we can budget intelligently going forward for what they might need facility-wise. Safety Day is going to be April 18th, 2026, and Assistant Chief Willett is planning good and fun and necessary things for that. That'll be 10 to 3 on April 18th. Code enforcement update. There have been interviews for the 3rd code enforcement officer. Is there an update there too, probably?
Feels well.
Okay, great. I thought it might be. So they made 42 calls in calendar year 2026 for, is that accurate? Sounds low to me, but.
First 3 weeks of the year.
First 3 weeks of the year.
Oh,
3 weeks, yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. So they've been busy.
I
Okay,
know,
all right, there you
absolutely.
go, all right.
I would assume that is a job I would never want. But there you have it. I'm thankful for those who do that work. And Station 4 presentation, we had a work session completely devoted to that. Hopefully, the public has been able to see those things. It was February 4th when we had the work session. And Chief Johnson also discussed the SAFER grant, and there'll be a lot more discussion moving forward on that. And there was no general discussion, and so in about 60 minutes, almost exactly, we adjourned.
All righty. Thank you, Ms. Hambrick. Next, we have police, Mr. Minke.
Thank you, Mayor. The Police Committee met on the 2nd of February. Everyone was in attendance. We did cover staffing as our normal. For the police department, they're currently at 70 out of 77. They are recruiting again. There are 22 applications and 10 active candidates that were beginning the physical fitness training this past Saturday. So they're well on their way to that activity. The police department does have 2 interns that are shadowing and spending time with the police department as another recruiting tool from Georgetown College. And then from the 911 Dispatch Center, they have 4 dispatchers that will be going to the academy in February. And that's a 4-week program that gets them there. Earlier tonight, I mentioned the Power DMS activity. So this was the 2nd month that we had a follow-up with that activity. the Power DMS you'll hear about later tonight, but basically it's software that pulls information together to support the management team with a tool looking at internal affairs type case management, complaints, use of force, incidents, and then looking at the well-being of the officer and being able to link all those things together and see the bigger picture to be able to have a good management tool for managing the department. And so it's just one of a series of tools that already exist, and they've done a really nice job of negotiating for that additional subscription. The other item that we talked about was looking at another tool for dispatch. It's called Axon Prepared. And again, it's a software tool for training dispatchers and pulling together the various tools that they use in their work in an easy and usable manner that tracks and makes it easy for them to go back and reflect on their calls and that type of activity. There were a few questions, even though, and so we'll be reviewing that again next month, but hopefully we'll be bringing that to you as well. This is a software program that works with the police department software as well. So they were able to negotiate some good funding there, and Jennifer anticipates being able to do this year, if we're able to move forward with that, with the existing budget that they have, and then look at the ongoing budget needs going from there. And that was the balance of our report.
Thank you, Mr. Mickey. All right, and last but not least, we have finance.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. The Finance Committee meeting was held on January 20th at 8 a.m. All members were present. The minutes from the December 15th meeting were unanimously approved. The first item on the agenda was the mid-year budget amendment, which will have first reading tonight. Stacy will take us through that. Finance Director Clark also discussed the historical tax credits for City Hall. She's completed some preliminary calculations based on the estimated final construction cost, and upon the completion of that, final paperwork will be submitted and City Council consideration of the offer to take place upon completion of the paperwork. On the next item, insurance premium taxes, we discussed the implications of the rate reduction. Finance Director Clark presented to us that the fiscal year 2025-26 budget is $8.8 million, which equates to an estimated $1.1 million of loss for each 1% in the rate. It was also noted that this would reduce the projected revenue growth of 10 to 11% that would be used for the capital projects work session. Let's see. We also discussed the agency appropriation amendment. A draft copy, amended draft copy, was brought to the Finance Committee and discussed the whether we should limit the amount of supplemental funding that they can request. That will be ongoing. The next item, committee member Leslie Mitchell brought up the Bluegrass Ride support situation with the dollar fee now being collected from bus rides. And Leslie Mitchell will be attending an interlocal meeting to ask the fiscal court to consider partnering with the city to waive these bus rider fees. Item 7, central bank CD. The rate for the CD decreased in the last maturity date. So Committee Chair Hampton would like to investigate other opportunities for these funds. Finance Director Clark will explore other opportunities and bring back to the February meeting. There was no general discussion, and we adjourned at 9:02.
Thank you. All righty. We have covered all 4 of the committee meetings, and thank you all, council, for your due diligence of working on those committees. I know sometimes it can be, with all other things going on, I appreciate the fact that, so we know that we have some input from this council and also sharing it with the public as to what we are doing. Next on the agenda is item number 8, planning and zoning ordinance. Is there anything that needs to report, Chairman?
Nothing in particular. We brought it to your attention at a meeting or two ago. Brought it to your attention at a meeting or two ago, and I believe that the memorandum was given to you by Emily to take a look at and have time. So it's just up to the council at this point in time. Do we want to start a workshop to share with planning and zoning to start looking at things, or what would the council's desire to be the next step?
All right. Thank you. Next, it's item number 9. We have the Office of Affordable Housing and Homelessness Prevention Quarterly Update, and Ms. Candace Whitehouse going to come up and tell us all the good things that's going on with the housing and everything about that. Okay.
Well, today I've tried a PowerPoint, so we'll see if this is helpful and if you all like this method, but I'm here for my quarterly update. Last time I was here, I presented an outline of what the next couple of years, the goals that we were hoping to achieve. I broke them up into quarters. So I have just taken the first few of those and put them on the slide for you. So I was just going to highlight and go into a few of the things listed on here. The first one being to expend the money that we have from our ESG grant. And so just to refresh your memory, the ESG grant is the Emergency Solutions Grant, and it has 2 pools. One is our emergency shelter pool, and that funding goes towards the low barrier shelter at the gathering place. So if you can next slide, whoever the person out there is. The emergency shelter funding so far has served 267 clients. That's an unduplicated number, and that began on July 1st, 2024. And then the low barrier shelter now, as you all know, is open 24/7, but it was a crucial piece of the response in this recent weather. Heather was able to get people in and get them warm, and they were able to stay throughout the day, not only at night. And she did not, to my knowledge, turn anyone away, and so folks who needed a warm bed were able to find that at the gathering place. And so that's a huge gem in our community. Not every community has that. And again, the low barrier, meaning that anybody who is looking for shelter can come. There are no requirements that they need to meet, or no reason that they would be turned away unless they were being a danger.
Could I have a point of information? Is
Sure.
that the same as people refer to the White Flag Shelter?
Yes, so the
Okay.
White Flag Shelter was what it was originally called, and we have started calling it the Low Barrier Shelter because we went away from White Flag, because White Flag shelters are really just temperature triggered, and so now our Low Barrier Shelter is open 24/7, 365.
Okay, thanks.
And we are able to fund the days that are temperature triggered, but the gathering place covers the other days. And so our emergency solution grant helps cover those days when it is below 32 or above 95. So the next slide. The other portion of the emergency solution grant is the rapid rehousing. And this is a rental assistance program or a housing assistance program that helps folks go from literally unhoused to being housed. And so this program has been a huge addition to our community. I know I've had a lot of nonprofits reach out to me and say that it's making a big difference in the speed at which they're able to move people into housing. And so since July 1st, the beginning of this grant in 2024, we have 7 ongoing rental assistance households, meaning that when they moved in, they came into the full rapid rehousing program, and so we help them move in, but then we also do rental assistance for them. Right now, those clients will have to be reevaluated at 12 months to see are they able to sustain on their own, or do we need to look at what our rental assistance looks like for them. And they are provided ongoing case management by the gathering place, so they are receiving support services as well. They don't have to participate in those, but I believe all of our clients are to some extent because they appreciate the support services. And then 15 households have taken advantage of the move-in assistance program. So under the rapid rehousing umbrella, then we have the move-in assistance program. And this is for folks who can afford to live in housing, but they cannot get over the initial bump of moving in. So that including the first, maybe last month's rent, security deposit, application fees, utility deposits, things like that. It's big lump sum when you're moving in somewhere, and so while they may be able to afford the monthly rent, they can't afford to the move-in costs. And so this move-in assistance program is for folks who are literally unhoused again, and they can apply and get assistance with all those upfront costs. And then once they are moved in, they have the option to access our case management for 90 days. And then after that, they are officially exited out of the program, and they are able to sustain their housing on their own. That has been enormous. I know I've gotten a few success stories from the school system specifically because they have families who are kind of bouncing from motels to the gathering place to couches, and they have an income, but they can't get moved in anywhere. And so we have successfully moved in multiple families into their own housing, and they are now sustaining that on their own. So that is under the Emergency Shelter or Emergency Solutions Grant. I will be back next council meeting, get me 2 in a row, because we were granted a renewal of these ESG funds, and so I will be back to, I guess, officially accept those funds and all those details. But it's a little confusing because this grant will start July 1st of 2025, and it goes through the end of this year. So they kind of overlap, and it's a little confusing, but we will have the details of that next council meeting.
Candace?
Yeah.
And all that information that you're sharing with us, would you send that to me so I can share it with them? Because I'm sure they're sitting there looking and writing, and, I got to pick up on that. They probably want this in their hands. So if you would send that to me, I will make sure council, I will spread it to you all so you can have it, okay?
Sounds good. I know those numbers are exciting.
Yeah.
Good numbers.
Because I got a question.
Yeah.
Does these programs help anybody become homeowners?
These two do not, no.
These do not? Okay.
No.
Do you have anything like that coming up, or?
My office does not, but I know Habitat has programs, and then I think the Housing Authority was also speaking about looking into programs like that, but I don't know if they are.
Yeah. So Candace, can you remind us again the dollars that we're talking about for these grants and whether or not you have any additional demographics on the clients that you're serving?
Yeah, so I can have the exact breakdown of the numbers at the next meeting, and I believe that you saw them when we asked to renew the funds too. I do not have them in my head though. And then as far as additional demographics, I can bring some additional breakdown. I can run pretty much any report on our folks because they're in our database. It's the HMIS database, and so the reports are pretty easy to run.
Thank you.
I have a question. How do we get in touch with the folks who are in need? Is it mostly through school resource? Is it through our housing development people? Is it word of mouth? How?
A little bit of everything. So all of our local nonprofits are fully aware of the programming. I make sure that they know, and then in our monthly networking meeting, I a lot of times go over it again. So they're all aware, and if they meet with someone who would qualify for either of these programs, then they are sure to make that referral. Like I said, Scott County Schools has been really huge in sending me specifically folks for the move-in assistance program.
Right.
But then word of mouth is huge. I have a lot of people who call and say, my friend said that you put them on the waiting list for rapid rehousing, or were able to help them with move-in assistance, and they want to know if they can also be helped. And sometimes it's a no, because it's kind of a slim, you have to meet standards for the programs, but I have also gotten referrals that way. So, and I think just, Scott County is small in a lot of ways, and so people just talk and hear about the programs.
I'd be interested to know how many people are on a wait list and demographics of people who are being
Yeah.
served and.
So it gets a little complicated because in order to receive the rapid rehousing funding, to be in the rapid rehousing program, you have to be put on the coordinated entry list, and that list is regional, and it is run through Kentucky Housing Corporation. I don't run that list, but it is in that database that I mentioned. And so folks get put on the coordinated entry list, and they are scored using a VI SPDAT, which is an evaluation, and then they are ranked on that list depending on their vulnerability score. And so if you have a disabled person living outside, they will score higher than maybe a mom with kids who somebody's paying for their hotel room.
Okay.
And so depending on their score, they are placed on a list. When an organization such as myself or Clark County Homeless Coalition or Homeless and Housing Coalition in Frankfort, when they say we have an opening for rapid rehousing or other programs such as permanent housing or TBRA, any other programs, they email and let them know, and that the person over the coordinated entry list then pulls a name and sends it to them. And so that is how someone is selected for rapid rehousing. That is the process we have to go through. So I'm happy to answer questions about a waiting list, but it's like a little more, I don't personally have a waiting list, if that makes sense.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not really understood all of the intricacies of that, and so.
I've sat through lots of trainings.
You don't necessarily have the final say about the applicant or the application process. It's all done out of our hands, basically.
Yeah, so I put the application in, I sit down with them and walk them through that, and then I put them into coordinated entry.
Right.
But then, they're on that list and ranked according to their VI SPDAT score, and some other factors. And so, I've had people put in the coordinated entry list who got pulled for a referral within a week, but then I have put people in a year ago and they're still waiting, so.
Okay. Well, thanks. That's helpful information.
Yeah.
Mayor, if I could, Candace, the Housing Authority, do they have plans on building anything anytime soon?
Well, I do not have information into that. I know that their director just
Yeah, I know they're going through
retired.
that,
So I think they're probably just trying to make it.
Well, and I know
through
that the city owns a lot of land over there just off of Powers Drive, George Martin in that area.
Yeah.
So, that's a potential, if they're looking for a place to expand, I'm sure that we could look at partnering with them on that, but, that's, they have a lot more access to stuff than what we do, and
Yeah.
so.
It would be a big project that hopefully they'll have a strong leader who can come in and take that.
Hope that's,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
And I'm just to comment more on that, of course, me being on that as one of the commissioners, one of the things about the Georgetown Housing Authority is, number one is this: you got to get things right with HUD. That's the big thing. You can want to do all the expanding. They're not going to approve any projects you have unless you're in compliance with HUD. And I think that's what they're working on. They're trying to get all those, for all the many years that they had issues, that's what they're working through now. And once they get that done, once they get those requirements of HUD in line, then they can talk about expanding, they can talk about other projects of that way. And that's what we are working at. We are aware of that, but that is a process that they've been working on for a long, long time, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. They are making progress. They've had some evaluations done, and they are making progress. So, and I'll keep you abreast as those unfold.
Yeah, Mayor, that would be I think, a great update topic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because there was a process put into place with the former director now.
Right.
That really had some potential,
Right.
I would say. And, now with this step back, I think
Right.
it's important to push that because of what we're seeing and needing in this community.
Okay. Excuse me, Candace, I'm sorry, I take
It's
your
okay.
thunder, okay?
I got a drink of water, so it's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Candace, what are probably some of the biggest barriers that your office faces? I mean, first off, you guys are effective, and that's great. I mean, with what you do, you're able to do so much. But with maybe funding, staffing, housing supply, what would you say are the biggest factors or the one big factor that you could use more of immediately, say, out of those three examples?
That's a good question. I think I could, on a different day, pick different, each of the different options. But my today self will say probably funding, because it's hard to do a lot with 3 pennies. And so I think it would open some doors if we could find ways to have this office's budget line increase, but we can work together to make sure, that happens as we move forward too.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Okay, next slide. So, right now, during this first quarter, K-count is on the priority list. And as, I don't know if you all heard or not, it was supposed to be at the end of January during Snowmageddon, and they did reschedule it. And so if you go to the next slide, it has been rescheduled for February 25th. And so hopefully we have some better weather and we'll be able to conduct our K-count efficiently. But just to let you all know, on that night, if you're unaware of what K-count is, I think you all have heard this, but it is a one-time count that HUD asks each state, and then the states ask each community to capture how many unhoused folks we have in our community on this one single night. I do always really emphasize that the definition of homeless we have to use on this night is the HUD definition of homeless. It is not McKinney-Vento, which is what the schools use, and it is not my personal definition. It is probably not your personal definition. It is the HUD definition of homeless, which limits us to essentially folks who are literally living outside, people who are living in their cars, people who are living in motel rooms that are being paid for by a third party. So if a church or a nonprofit pay for that motel room, then that is classified as homeless. Or if they are living in one of our shelters, which in our community would be Elizabeth's Village, Gathering Place, or Mary Safe Haven. Those are the only locations they could sleep on February 25th and be counted as homeless. And so those are the folks that we are trying to capture. This count in our community has really grown more and more effective each year, and I'm very proud of that progress. I think like 10 years ago, nobody was doing it here, and so we were just auto-reporting 0. And each year we are finding ways to more efficiently count. Due to our ESG funds and our partnership with Gathering Place, we do already have a lot of folks in our HMIS database system, and so counting folks is a lot more streamlined and takes a lot less time. And so folks who are at the Gathering Place, whether that's at the Low Barrier Shelter or their Gathering Place programming, which they fund totally on their own, they're kind of already in the system, and we can easily count them for that night. And because of this, the main place that we'll be counting on February 25th will be at a dinner at the Gathering Place at 6 o'clock that night. It's their regular dinner. They have it every Wednesday, but we will be there to hand out additional resources that night. We have some other folks coming to set up. UK Healthcare will be there. I think the police department will be there, and some other folks just to show up and offer support. We do also do food, and then we hand out backpacks that we were filling with supplies. This year they get to fill the backpacks with what they want. But it could be things like warm clothing items, hygiene products, things that the health department donate. And so we are very thankful for our community. All of that stuff is donated, and we are able to hand those resources out. I'm trying to think of what else for K-Count. If you want to be involved in K-Count, you can just reach out to me directly. It is not something that showing up the night of, there's not a lot that I can delegate to you because you need some training prior to. But if you would like to be involved, let me know. Or if you just want to come hang out, Heather would love to have you come eat dinner and see the place. So yeah, does anybody have questions about K-Count?
Yeah, how many did you have last, what was the count for 2025?
I think it was like right under 100.
Candace?
Yeah.
Just to follow up to that, do you have any idea how accurate the count is?
So that is a really fun thing that we debate a lot in my world. So the argument that is that in the winter, the reason they do the count in the winter is because everybody is hunkered down and we can find folks easier. And so everyone's hypothetically in shelter and we'll be able to find them. I've had discussions with people who are in this world who feel like this count is definitely inaccurate because there are folks living outside who do not want to go to shelter, and so they find creative ways to either continue to live outside and we cannot find them, or to stay warm for the night if the night is very, very cold and it's dangerous. And so I believe that there are some officers who would agree with me that if we did this count in the warmer months, that we would be able to go out and find folks living outside, and that would raise the count, because Heather's not empty in the summer. Her numbers might be just a tad bit lower, but it's not drastic enough that it would like make that big of a difference. So it is something that we have to do to comply with HUD, and we complete it best we can, but I do not think it is a great reflective number of our homeless population.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay, so something a little bit new, something that I pulled out of our housing needs assessment is ways that our community consider reducing soft costs for affordable housing, so incentivizing development to come in, whether they're already planning to come in and they can add affordable housing, or to come in and build affordable housing. If you'll hit the next slide. I do not have these, as Devin likes to say, fully baked. These are ideas and brainstorms that I have going on, and research, and I just wanted to let you all know where my brain is headed. And so some ideas that I have gotten from other communities are adjusted parking requirements, waiving fees / reducing fees, and I know that starts to affect other departments, and so I would definitely be working with whoever that would be affecting to talk about what the best ways to go about that is. But that is a very common, probably I would think maybe the most common way to provide an incentive. And then tax exemptions, and those three, or all of these I guess on the screen, are if you are meeting whatever we would define as providing affordable housing. And there are examples that I've seen that haven't even broken down further than that. So if you're providing affordable housing for the 80% AMI, you would be open to receiving these incentives, but if you're dropping down to 30% AMI, then you would be open into a second list of incentives. And so really getting with the folks who are interested in this and talking to them about what they're willing to provide as far as affordable housing and what that means to them and what that means to our community. And then the last thing on the list that I've looked at, multiple communities who are doing this, is grant programs that would come from the city and county. So essentially someone applying, saying, I'm going to do a third of my development at 50% AMI, and I would like grant funding to help me with infrastructure to make this more affordable. And so this is something that I've seen, some of the cities that I've looked at, because I know you all will ask, is Denver, Colorado has some things like this. Boulder, Colorado. I actually spoke with somebody from Sarasota County today in Florida, and they have some of these options. And then Port Angeles, Washington was actually the first city I looked at. And so a lot of these cities that I'm looking at have kind of like a package or like a buffet of here are some incentive options, and we really want you to help with our affordable housing. If you're coming here anyway, or maybe you're coming here for this. I know one of the reasons that Boulder did some of the incentives they did was that they set a goal for their community to increase their affordable housing by 15% in 10 years. And so this was one of the ways that they were trying to incentivize folks to help provide affordable housing. Does anybody have questions? Again, these are not like super,
I have a question.
yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. When we had the builders here, maybe when we were discussing the impact fees, I can't remember who it was, but one or maybe even two builders said that much of the time, cities or counties don't ask for them to do things. I want to make sure that we're on the front end of asking whatever we can ask the builders to do, and I'm not talking about impact fees because we've talked about that at length, and it often just raises the prices of the homes. But I don't necessarily know what those asks are, but it was relayed, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that other places are getting more than we're getting because we may not be asking. Is that what other people heard? So I just have a question about that, and I'm curious about how we can ask more of the builders within the parameters of what's legal. You know, it'd be nice if we could require them to say, if you're gonna come and do a subdivision, 10% of your homes have to be, and I know that, I don't even know the absolute legality of things like that, but I want to ask what we can ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. So,
And I can talk a little bit about that because it's something we're working with. You know, in looking from that study, Judge Covington and I have been trying to get, if you look at the Transylvania, their project, and how they got that done. And what they did was public and private coming together. And what they did was the banks got involved, and what that project ended up where they got low costs or low rate loans to upfront that for the developer.
Right.
And then once that was done, they somehow get it paid back. They also got the state involved through grant funding. So that's what we're trying to look at here and trying to say, okay, how can we take that model and do it? And that's what we're working on. Okay?
and so it's you and Judge Covington that are working on that?
And then along with some others.
Okay,
Okay?
well, that's exciting.
Yes, thank you.
Willow, I do think to maybe answer, I know when I was researching these communities, you could tell from their city site that affordable housing was a priority, and it was very upfront when you were looking at applying for a permit or applying for, I don't know, looking at the different ordinances. It was very apparent, and I feel like I appreciated that about these cities, and it wasn't something they were just talking about. You could tell that it's current, it's happening, and they talk about it a lot and keep it on the forefront.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Mayor, so as a point of reference, the legislature is working on several
Right.
bills
Yeah, they are.
around this as well, that,
Might help.
yes.
Yeah.
Just tying back to your original question, not cutting back on anything Mayor said in terms of kind of looking to mimic that project. The Kentucky Bankers Association is looking at how to make that a model that folks can use. And I think these conversations that Mayor and Candace referenced are continuing to stay ahead of that, side by side with that KBA conversation. But to your question about asking the builders, asking the developers to come to the table,
Yeah.
I know some of the conversations Candace has had with those folks is around what what they're interested in, what might bring them to the table. So, as a part of these 4 bullet points, one point of emphasis is getting stakeholders to the table. And you all are stakeholders, the fiscal court stakeholders, obviously, as folks who can provide funding, but ultimately understanding, are these things fits in our community, for our development community, and for the available land we have and the opportunities, the zoning we have. So to that point, I think the answer is they haven't been asked, but they'll have to be stakeholders as you all consider possible legislation and possible grant programming and funding to continue to support the activity. So I hope that's an add to just kind of reemphasize that those folks are going to need to be brought to the table as stakeholders to make sure what is asked of you all in terms of legislation and funding is going to make that impact.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
just wanted to add that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
All right.
Next slide, I think I'm almost done. Yeah, so that was just, I guess, the timeline one more time. Yes, anybody have any other questions in general? Okay, well, thank you all so much, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Candace, for that update, and as always, it's very timely, and we'll continue to work with that, and again, I'll continue to, we'll still be working on ideas how we can get involved in this as a model, and hopefully we can get things done where we can address that based on what we got from that study we did, and listen to them from the work session we had with the builders and what they thought would, bringing, working together to do, to try to, get some of these homes. Like I said, we're about, in Scott County, I think we were, and Holden, correct me if I'm wrong, Holden, on this, but I think we're about 3,000 units short in Scott County alone as for housing.
Yeah,
Is
the
that,
housing needs assessment showed that there was a substantial deficit.
come up here, yeah. So yes, about 3,000 units, and I think Lexington is really has issues, but those are some things that we're trying to address. So I just want to make sure that I had the right number in mind. Thank you. All right. All right, number 10, first readings. We have 3 first readings. The first one is the 2025-26 Budget Amendment Ordinance. Sponsors are Greg Hampton and Tammy Lusby Mitchell.
Good evening. I just want to walk you all through the list of items included in this budget amendment so that if you have any questions, you're given the opportunity to ask. So mostly new requests this time, since it is what we consider our mid-year amendment. The first item is general government professional services. We have included an additional $20,000 in legal fees. We've had some legal issues come up throughout this year that were unanticipated and above and beyond what's normal, so we've had to contract with third-party legal services more than usual. So looking to add $20,000 to get us through the end of the year on that. We did add $25,000, or requesting $25,000 for an IT consultant. We've been having a lot of conversations in Finance Committee about the nature of IT in the city, what is best going forward. We'll talk about it a little bit more as we go through this budget amendment, but currently we're working through probably an extension of our current contract and some tweaks to that to make it work better for us. But our hope is to also, in the meantime, like to have a consultant to look to what would be best for the city. Is it continuing the MSP provider? Is it in-house staff? And that kind of thing. So just getting a little outside help from an IT expert on how to do that. If there's any questions, I'll probably defer to Devin on that one a little bit. But you'll see, I'll go ahead and bring up on here, you'll see part of the way down on here, we have net gain staff augmentation. And that's one of the things, we did the survey. You all may have received the survey about our IT and what our staff needs were. And the biggest thing was having someone who can be on site that can fix. That was the biggest request from our departments. So part of this renegotiation of this contract is requesting staff augmentation. And it is a flat $7,500 per month to have them here for 35 hours per week. So just like a full-time employee. So our IT liaison position is a manager of vendors, manager of contracts. They're not that So this would be like a level 1 service technician on site at the city, full-time. So those two kind of go hand in hand. Adding the staff augmentation in this next iteration of our technology budget, or technology agreement with net gain would be kind of that interim while we continue to evaluate what the future needs would look like. So those are those two requests in here that are both related to our managed service provider contract. The next one, just $2,500 in miscellaneous. We usually only allow a little bit for miscellaneous, so just some things that have come up. City clerk, computer hardware, software, just adding that in. That she had a computer and some other things that came up that weren't budgeted. Professional services, recodification of the city ordinances. That was a project that had been started last year. After researching, we'd only paid about half of that, so we needed to account for that in the city clerk's budget. That is where we'll have a searchable online code on our website. So just finishing up that project. Those payments will be due in a few months. A couple of the things you'll see, one of the things you'll see on the personnel ordinance coming up, police has requested 2 safety officers and an open records clerk that will be shared with dispatch. So both departments have vacancies to cover that, but just illustrating that we are using vacancies to cover the addition of those positions through the end of this fiscal year.
I have a question.
Yes.
Could you refresh my mind about the specifics of the safety officers? What
Yes.
would their job
So
description?
this would be, I know Chief is going to talk about it a lot more with the personnel ordinance.
Okay.
So
Maybe we should wait then.
if you'll give him,
Yeah,
some,
yeah,
I know
yeah.
he's going to come up on the personnel ordinance and
Yeah,
talk
that's
about
great.
all the positions, the
Okay,
open records
perfect.
and that. But those will be non-hazardous positions, so they're a little lower cost
Yeah.
than a police officer. The open records clerk was another position requested that we talked about. Police and dispatch get inundated with open records. The body cameras brings its own animal with the open records, so just a lot going on there. And again, we're using vacancy coverage. The next item, the fleet vehicle order for next year. We mentioned this when you all approved the order, just trying to make sure we keep in line with legal statutes, that if we approve something, we've budgeted for it. However, we don't expect those to come in and actually start paying for those until after July 1, but just trying to follow statutes regarding budget procedures. The fire cabling project that was mentioned by the fire committee, they ended up having some radios that were turned in by other jurisdictions that they were able to use. So they're just transferring $22,000 from their communications equipment line to their buildings and improvements to be able to cover that IT cabling project, because they had initially not planned for that. As was mentioned in the committee updates, the fire station number 2 apron and concrete work, estimating $100,000. Once we get our concrete unit price contracts out to bid and back, we would use those contracts for this work, but that's an estimate. And again, the building maintenance, having 3 buildings that are quite old, some unexpected things have come up this year, and they've asked for $25,000 to get through the rest of the year. So, and again, the same thing, Fire Station 1, building maintenance and utilities. We have a separate line for that one where, at least still currently, EMS is housed there. So any building maintenance that we do at Fire Station 1, half of that cost gets put in a separate line item that we then bill the county for. As we move forward to next budget year, we'll be reevaluating how we bill the county for that, depending on where EMS ambulances are located. And again, so the county half of those Station 1 expenses. So, engineering, as was mentioned from the Public Works Committee, the old Oxford Road Bridge engineering, much like we did with Clubhouse, we received a grant for the construction of the repairs. However, we, the city, have to pay for the engineering. So we had added Clubhouse Drive, I think, in our last amendment, so we are adding the engineering for Oxford. For the Washington Street sidewalks, Eddie actually has enough money in his line item to cover the engineering and design of those sidewalks, but we had included an estimated $85,000 for the construction of those sidewalks. So once we can get a engineer procured design, then we'll have the money set aside that we can work on the construction of those. As mentioned from our previous municipal orders that you've approved, the City Hall networking equipment and City Hall move. As you remember, we were reshuffling some IT budget items, but still needed an additional $21,900 to cover that network equipment and move back into City Hall. That was part of that municipal order that you approved at the end of January. Marshall Park restroom, we had a couple of change orders related to the footers. They had to dig a little deeper on the footers, and then also the plans did not include the gutters and downspouts, so they had asked to add those, obviously to protect the building. So we have those two small change orders that we need to wrap up as that project has wrapped up. The planning and zoning roof, it's not a complete and total roof replacement, but it is a significant repair that will cost about $40,000. And so we are being asked to cover half of that. The county would cover the other half. The Revenue Commission, Mayor could probably speak to this better than I can, but I do my best to estimate their budget. I don't always have their final budget number. And then they also did a mid-year amendment. So our portion of that is about $15,000 extra dollars. So I wanted to get that updated. The Kiwanis Fireworks, I believe they have lost a community partner for the fireworks show. We typically allocate $6,250. We've been asked to increase that to $7,500, so this is an additional $1,250 for the request that will come for the 2026 fireworks show. Community grants, our appropriation policy for the agencies or a nonprofit funding policy allows up to $400,000. We only budgeted exactly what was applied for and what the mayor allocated, which was around $322,300. We have received some additional requests, some things that have been discussed in Finance Committee, so this would add an additional $25,000 to that budget for any requests that are brought to council and the mayor over the course of the next few months. And then, as mentioned, we would need to bring at the next meeting a revised appropriations policy that would allow for those additional applications. So, yes.
Quick question. So the application process, is the process now, it's one
So
time a
typically,
year?
we open those applications, usually around March to April, we open the applications for the following fiscal year. And we didn't have anything in that policy that allowed for items that may come up throughout the year. We've had a couple that have been brought to the mayor and Judge Covington that thankfully got resolved because the state ended up funding them or some other things. But there's some other things that have been brought up by council members. So we wanted to allow just a little bit of additional money because the policy allows for up to $400,000 in that line item, but we only budgeted exactly what we approved per the application. So that updated appropriations policy would come to you probably at the next meeting that would allow for those additional applications for any emergent or immediate needs that can't wait until the next budget year. So it's to give a little bit of cushion for some things that may be coming down the pipeline.
So having done that in the corporate world for a lot of years, maybe one of the things you ought to consider is a kind of a holding fund that out of the allocation, you have X number of dollars that you set aside. You still only have one application period.
Yeah.
But in the case of an emergency or whatever, then you've got this holding fund.
Yes, and that's what we've talked about in the future budgets. I think the mayor may recommend that we budget the full $400,000. He may not allocate that all in the initial application process and hold some back. The policy allows for up to $400,000, but that's not what we adopted in the budget, so. As mentioned tonight, at one of the upcoming meetings, you'll have the approval of the next round of ESG funding. That does require a $41,750 match from the city. So this is putting the match in for the new grant that will be brought for your approval at the next meeting. We'll talk more about the transfers to the other funds as we get down to those. The only previously approved item we had was the change order for the Verkada camera system. And then As mentioned, throughout the year, I'm bringing back these non-cash budget items. So I looked at all of the vehicles that have been delivered since July 1. This is the delivered capitalized price for those vehicles, and in and out revenue and expense, no net effect on the budget. And I'll continue to do that for future budget amendments as more vehicles are delivered. For the 911 fund, there's no amendment required. I just wanted to illustrate that they will be paying for half of the open records position, but they have enough vacancies to cover that. So it doesn't require an amendment, but just wanted to make note of it. The grant fund, we had, our VAWA grant was a little bit different than what we had applied for. Also, bringing in our KPDI round 2, that had not been brought in, the 2 city-county bridge improvement programs, and our current round of ESG money. So just updating for all the current grants we've received. The Environmental Services Fund, one of the things the mayor had asked about, since we don't appear to be pursuing a stormwater utility fee at this time, Public Works and Engineering, Stormwater have requested a street sweeper vac truck hybrid for several years now. And so he has put that $400,000 in the budget for that. Part of that will be offset by, we had budgeted for the next phase of the stormwater utility fee, which we're not moving forward with at this time, so we were able to reduce that budget. And then a couple of the engineering carryover contracts we were able to reduce because there was more paid on them last year. So, yes.
Just to mention, so by being able to purchase that, that actually does meet the qualifications of the permit and the program, so it falls nicely in line with the roles and responsibilities.
And hopefully we'll be bringing that purchase to you by the first meeting in March through using either cooperative purchasing or state contract pricing. Bruin's doing a little more research. The cemetery fund, our cemetery sexton just requested for an additional $4,500 in his professional services. That will be split with the county. Just some things that he had, either the price had increased and just a little bit of buffer to get him through the rest of the year. And lastly, as mentioned at the last meeting when we approved our purchase order for the security camera and access control, adding $89,000 for that purchase to cover both that and the audiovisual. Again, those were not anticipated to be part of the GMP contract with Codell, and then $29,000 for the additional construction administration services by the architect, since we've gone a little bit farther than anticipated. So that's everything that's in the budget amendment. And then I think Tracy has to read all the numbers now.
Tracy, so, if you need to catch your breath in between there, let me know, okay? Go ahead, thank you, ma'am.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026. Summary, general fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $882,389. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $3,850. Lease proceeds are increased by $1,448,805. General government expenses are increased by $47,500. Affordable housing expenses are increased by $41,750. Information technology expenses are increased by $51,900. City clerk expenses are increased by $9,475. Police expenses are increased by $134,992. Fire expenses are increased by $125,000. City engineering expenses are increased by $135,000. Community services expenses are increased by $26,250. Interlocal expenses are increased by $58,622. Transfers to other funds are increased by $255,750. Capital expenses are increased by $1,448,805. Grant fund. State grant revenue is increased by $1,577,456. Federal grant revenue is increased by $102,596. Police expenses are increased by $3,528. Community service expenses are increased by $1,676,524. Environmental services fund. Transfers from other funds are increased by $135,500. Stormwater expenses are increased by $135,500. Cemetery fund, intergovernmental revenue is increased by $2,250. Transfers from other funds are increased by $2,250. Cemetery expenses are increased by $4,500. Capital projects fund, transfers from other funds are increased by $118,000. Capital expenses are increased by $118,000. All ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Public introduced and read for the first time, February 9th, 2026.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on the item is the item B, 10B, the amendment to the personal ordinance. Sponsors Kim Minke and Karen Tingle Sames.
Mayor and Council, as Stacy mentioned, we have the growing need for the open records position, as we talked about in our budget. Just some numbers to throw at you. Since July of 2025 at the police department, we've had over 276 open records requests through the county attorney or the Commonwealth Attorney's office, which a lot of times is linked to our body cameras. We've had over 440 requests from them. And that could be redaction of videos we're at a crime scene or things like that. So they're constantly needing information as well. So this leads to over 223 redaction hours. Currently we have basically two officers, or an officer and a civilian that does that, and Captain Lodell assists when he has time as well. So it's a burden, obviously, on our manpower and the hours. She mentioned dispatch, that we would share this position. So their numbers are very similar to ours. Since July of 2025, they've had 278 open records requests, and they have 4 people down at dispatch that try to keep those requests completed in time as well. So they're anticipating over 500 open requests, open records requests, and I'm sure we'll get close to that as well. So I think that's the need. It's going to continue to grow. We knew that when we got body cameras, insurance agencies, the community people just want to know what's going on, and they continue to do that. We do have a space at the police department that we can house this person or put them in an office, so we'd be ready to go.
All right.
And as far as the traffic safety, the civilian officers, just give you a little bit about information about what they can and can't do through statute. So they shall not have the authority to issue citations for moving violations. An example of that would be like a speeding citation. They can't do that. They can go out and control and direct traffic. They can remove vehicles from roadways in violation of state or local laws. They may issue a citation for a misdemeanor or a violation committed in their presence, and typically that would be from investigating a traffic collision. So they may come up and somebody's tag may be expired or license have been expired, so they can issue citations for that. They shall not have the powers of peace officers to make any arrests or carry deadly weapons, so civilian role. They have to go through and complete 120 hours of appropriate training that is certified by the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council prior to being appointed as the safety officers. As we have said, our friends down in Richmond have agreed to let us come down if we're given these positions and train our civilians for free, and then they would be glad to give us the curriculum going forward so we could train in-house, make that easier. So what would this look like as far as vehicles and uniforms and things like that? We're looking at pickup trucks, obviously four-wheel drive, so they can get through conditions that we've been having seems like forever here lately with snow and ice. So they'd obviously be a big benefit to our patrol guys. So we're looking at white pickup trucks, our fleet is black with white and gray stripes, or just black plain vehicles, so you'd be able to distinguish. Our stripe package would look similar, but it would say traffic officer or civilian officer, and using our patch for our patrol guys use our badge. Vehicles would be a little bit cheaper because we obviously don't need the cage, we don't need the pursuit package, we don't need all the bells and whistles we would for a normal police officer. Lights, of course, the stripe package, as I said. So those would be a lot cheaper than our normal vehicles. Uniforms, we're still talking about that. We've kicked around several different ideas, but we would want to make sure that it's easily to distinguish the civilian traffic safety officer versus a patrol officer. If you'll notice, our lights on our patrol cars are blue and amber. We've chosen to go with blue and red. Be another way to distinguish them. So hopefully the public wouldn't get them confused with a normal police officer. I gave you all a couple of handouts prior to. They look like these. I got a lot of stuff. So just to show the need again for this, obviously it would help out our patrol division tremendously. They would be able to take all of the calls that we have noted here. So by them helping out on some of the collisions in parking lots, the motorist assist, you'll see that a lot of these numbers are up. So giving you over a 3-year period. Vehicle lockouts, parking problems, debris in the roadway, all of that, if they're able to respond to that, obviously it leaves our traffic unit. They're able to still go out and enforce traffic laws, do speed studies, be in the intersections trying to deter traffic crashes, things of that. So the traffic safety guys would still help patrol officers that may be having to leave and respond to something that's traffic related. And the other graphs I gave you, just an idea of our calls for service. Last year we were right at 40,000. So we're anticipating over 41,000 calls for service this year in 2026. And you can see the population still continues to grow. So we feel like they would be a great asset to our department, and they're considerably a little bit less than what a patrol officer is.
I have a question. I think this is a great idea and a really big need. I'm a little concerned about their safety. Will they be in like an identifiable police uniform? I mean.
Be identifiable?
Like what will they be wearing in their white pickup? What will they,
We're still looking at this, or it may be the.
They're gonna have a badge? Are they gonna have identifying?
No, it'll be a patch. It'll say,
Patch?
it won't say police, it'll say traffic safety.
Okay.
We'll have it civilian. We've talked about maybe having it as a reflective,
Okay.
yellow, so that they can be
For
seen. But
traffic
there'll be
control? Yeah,
distinguished differences between them and what we typically wear.
okay. I'm a little concerned about their safety. But I
Chief?
assume they won't have cameras.
Oh, they'll have cameras.
They'll have cameras?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yep.
Thank you.
That was one of my questions. I was going to see if they'd have body cams or if they would be allowed to carry any sort of protection if.
They'll
if
have
something-
radio, and they'll have body cameras, and part of the 120 hours, I'm sure, covers,
Yeah.
some self-defense and things like that. If not, we'll do that in-house, because we do that, throughout the year. Of course, with the radio and our guys, we'll know if they're out, and if they would listen out, see if they needed assistance, and, we'd go there. We know it's very successful in Lexington, Richmond, and there's some, Winchester's just kicking off a similar, program, if you will. So they're getting into the traffic safety officers as well. So it's successful.
Great. I'd imagine there'd be some courtesy, non-emergency, just helpful things, occasionally help with a lockout or call in.
Yeah, that's
if
in the
there's a-
graphs I gave you, all the vehicle
Yeah.
lockouts, debris in the roadway, directing traffic, motorist assist, things like that.
I think one of the important things they're trying to do with this is that it takes away or alleviates some of the everyday small items that the police is responding to. that, so if they don't have to worry about going to a lockout, if they don't have to worry about going to see someone with a minor traffic accident that's in a parking lot, something like there, then that frees up our traffic unit, it frees up our other officers to actually handle more serious type of calls that needs to be made. And as you can see, the call volume is going up. And a lot of those calls are probably calls that these safety officers could do that will allow our other officers to do more patrolling, to handle more of the, I want to say, high-risk type of calls.
Yes, so this graph here gives you an idea of calls that they could go to. So again, collisions, motorist assist, funeral escorts, debris in the roadway, parking problems, vehicle lockouts, traffic control, traffic hazard, traffic signal, so forth, so on. So, yes, just parking problems and vehicle lockouts alone between those, they're both right at 650 calls each. So you can look at the graphs and see where the
Mayor?
needs are.
Yes,
In our committee meeting, because we talked about this in the committee meeting, one of the things you also talked about, you mentioned that you haven't mentioned tonight to the council or to the audience tonight, is how this is a recruiting tool for the next step up to become a police officer.
Yes. Yes, we have mentioned that, so we'd open it up. We'd love to see it as a recruiting tool. 18, 19, 20-year-old person that could get their feet wet, if you will, by getting exposed to the law enforcement, public servant aspect of it. And then that way, if they work with us a couple years, we get to see their work ethic, see how they perform under some stressful conditions and see if it's a right fit. And if they'd like to be a police officer, then we would extend that. The buzz has gotten out that we were, looking at this. So there's definitely several people that we've been told to our officers, if this is granted, then I feel like we're going to have a lot of applicants because there's people lined up. We've also got several people that's reached out about the open record. So I think with both of these positions, we could fill them very quickly.
good. Much needed.
Thank you. Captain Lodell's going to do the power DMS.
Good evening.
We haven't finished this item.
Nope. Not yet.
Okay. So we need to go ahead and do that first. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance amending Section 2-60 of the Code of Ordinances regarding personnel, summary 1, amends Exhibit B of Section 2-60, subsection C of the Code of Ordinances to create 2 positions of safety officer at grade 109 and 1 position of open records clerk at grade 108 within the Georgetown Police Department. 2, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read the first time, February 9th, 2026.
All right. Thank you. Now, let's see.
So you're currently in the first
Yeah,
reading section, so
Yeah, we'll have to
if you
wait.
want to skip ahead, you can, but you are in that section.
Yep, so let's just go ahead and finish up the item C, and then we can bring him up.
It's your call.
Yep. I'm going to call audible on that and just go ahead and bring him on up. Come on, get it out of the way.
Let's try this again.
All right.
All right. So I just want to talk a little bit about Power DMS. So that stands for the Document Management System. So right now what we've done is we utilize this for all of our policies and general orders. So anytime we make an update, it archives the old copy. It makes it very easy if we need to go back because of litigation. If we need to go back for anything, really, it will show us whatever the current policy was at the time. We also use it for our training. So we just recently, this past budget year, started utilizing it with our new recruits for their field training program. But we also use it for our in-house training, whether it's firearms, driving, so that we can track all of that. And we also, it's used for our accreditation process as well, which happens every 4 years. So that's currently what we're using it for. What we're looking to do is we're looking to expand into 3 different areas. The first one being power action. So power action would allow us to do our use of force reports, our vehicle pursuits, officer injuries, property damage, equipment loss and damage. So all of these are things that we currently utilize, for use of force, we use this. For pursuits, we use this. For injuries, we utilize this. And so this would help to streamline all of that stuff into this platform that we're already utilizing for these other things I mentioned. So that's just going to save time. It's going to improve efficiencies. The second would be internal affairs, Power IA. So that's very important, especially for our executive team, those of us that are looking into these investigations. It allows us to basically take our workflow, import it, and just make sure that we're checking all the boxes off. And it just makes it a lot easier to be able to track and retain all of those as well. We're also looking at Power Vitals, which is a wellness-forward early intervention and officer support. So one of the things that we brought up during police committee was just, there are times that we may have officers responding to multiple critical incidents over the course of maybe like a 2-week period, and maybe they've also been involved in a pursuit, maybe also been involved in a use of force. And sometimes those are kind of hard to track just with the current systems we're using. And so with stuff like this, it would give us the ability, just the analytics dashboard, to be able to look and see, if we've got an officer that's responded to, a suicide and then a fatal car wreck, and then, been involved in a use of force over the course of whatever time period, it's going to flag and at least give us the opportunity to be able to follow up, have their supervisor follow up, and just be able to support our guys better. Because sometimes it's hard to track these metrics unless you have a system in place that allows you to be able to do that. So we feel like expanding to these 3, these 3 add-ons, if you will, is just going to increase the efficiency of our command team and just the agency as a whole. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
All right. Do we need a motion from you all on this? Because this is an add-on.
Yeah. Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Mackey, second by Ms. Mitchell. Are there further questions and or comments? All those for this amendment and add-on?
This is it's municipal order.
Municipal order, excuse me, municipal order. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Let the record reflect that it passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we can come back with C, because I don't want to keep it all since they were talking about police. So I thought item C, first reading of the insurance premium tax rate change ordinance. Sponsors are Karen Tingle Sames and Todd Stone.
Just for an introduction for the public. Thank you. Introduction for the public for what this is. It's just because of and Emily, in doing the ordinance, explains it very well, but it's because of our bonus, you might say, that we received on the net profits, a substantial amount that we didn't budget for, that we didn't expect, that out of that for this next calendar year, or when the fiscal year comes in, the new fiscal year, is to give back a small percentage. And it will be a very small percentage because it's only 1%. For the city, it's about $1.1 million is what will come out of the city's budget. But what it will give back to everyone, as Tammy said at the last meeting, we talked about it briefly. She said it might be $50 for her. It might be $100 for somebody else. It might be $200 for somebody. But the bottom line is, it's not how much you're going to get back. It's the fact that the city acknowledges that we have this extra windfall, as I'll call it, and that when those things happen and we're able to, that we want to give back, not only in providing services for you, because we're going to be able to provide services and some capital projects with the rest of the money, but to be willing to say, okay, let's give it back when we can afford to give it back to people. Because the number one thing that's been complained about the last year is the water rates. Well, you know what? For an average $40 water bill or a $60 water bill, because you're saving that little amount, that may help you pay for that. That may take you out to eat. That may do something for you, but it's the right for you to have it back when we can do that. So proposed with Todd and I are for this next fiscal year,
it has to be approved by the end of March, and there'll be time to work it into the budget, so the mayor can start working it into the budget, knowing what the amount will be. Granted, Georgetown's growing, so more than likely, we're gonna get more out of insurance premium that's gonna come to us anyway. So the ordinance states that it's for a year. Now, I think, Emily, will have to come back for a vote next year. Okay, all right, it will have to come back to the council for a vote yet next year, whether you keep it at 7, or you take it back to 8, or you create some other. Which personally, I like it coming back to a vote for the council because it makes it transparent what the council's doing, and the council votes on things year from year and takes a look at it year to year. So that's my proposal. Todd, anything extra that you'd like to add to that?
I think you covered it.
Okay, and so that's what Todd and I are requesting of the council.
All right. Is there any other comment from this council here?
We need to do the first reading first.
Oh, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, Madam Clerk, go ahead and read it. I'm sorry.
An ordinance amending section 36-93 of the Georgetown Code of Ordinances to change the insurance premium tax rate from 8% to 7% effective July 1, 2026. Whereas the city of Georgetown's tax revenue is largely derived from ad valorem property taxes, occupational license taxes on wages and net profits, and insurance premium taxes, and whereas the city received a significant increase in net profit tax revenue collected during fiscal year 2025 that led to an unexpected surplus at the end of the year, which increased the city's fund balance, and whereas members of the Georgetown City Council are exploring various ways to spend or invest these surplus funds, and whereas in light of this surplus, this legislation has been proposed to reduce the insurance premium tax rate to be imposed during the period of July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2027 from 8% to 7% as a means to offer one-time relief to city taxpayers without making permanent changes to the tax structure. And whereas KRS 91A-080 provides that the Georgetown City Council may change the license fee or tax known as an insurance premium tax imposed by the city of Georgetown upon insurance companies for the privilege of engaging in the insurance business within city limits, and whereas the city must send the Commissioner of Insurance a copy of any changes to its insurance premium tax rates by March 23rd of each year to be effective the following July 1. And whereas effective July 1, 2026, the Georgetown City Council finds it in the best interests of the community to temporarily reduce the insurance premium tax rate from 8% to 7% for the period of July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2027, unless extended by a future act of the Georgetown City Council in accordance with KRS 91A.080 subsection 1. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, Section 1, Section 36-93 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Georgetown, Kentucky is hereby amended as follows. Section 36-93, fees. A, the license fee imposed upon each insurance company which issues life insurance policies on the lives of persons residing within the corporate limits of the city shall be 7% of the first year's premium actually collected within each calendar quarter by reason of the issuance of such policies. B, the license fee imposed upon each insurance company which issues any insurance policy which is not a life insurance policy shall be 7% of the premiums actually collected within each calendar quarter by reason of the issuance of such policies on risks located within the corporate limits of the city, on those classes of businesses which such company is authorized to transact, less all premiums returned to policyholders. C, no license fee or tax imposed under this section shall apply to premiums. 1, received on policies of group health insurance provided for state employees under KRS 18A.225. 2, received on policies insuring employers against liability for personal injuries to their employees or the death of their employees caused thereby under the provisions of KRS Chapter 342. 3, received on health insurance policies issued to individuals. 4, received on policies issued through Kentucky Access created in KRS Chapter 304, Subtitle 17B. 5, received on policies for high deductible health plans as defined in 26 U.S.C. 223, subsection C2. 6, received on Multi-state surplus lines defined as non-admitted insurance as provided in Title V, Subtitle B, the Non-Admitted and Reinsurance Reform Act of 2010 of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, publication L number 111-203. 7, paid to insurance companies or surplus lines brokers by nonprofit self-insurance groups or self-insurance entities whose membership consists of school districts, or 8, paid to insurance companies or surplus lines brokers by nonprofit self-insurance groups or self-insurance entities whose memberships consist of cities, counties, charter county governments, urban county governments, consolidated local governments, unified local governments, school districts, or any other political subdivision of the Commonwealth. D, no license fee or tax imposed under this section shall apply to premiums paid to insurers of municipal bonds, leases, or other debt instruments issued by or on behalf of a city, county, charter county government, urban county government, consolidated local government, special district, nonprofit corporation, or other political subdivision of the Commonwealth. However, this exemption shall not apply if the bonds, leases, or other debt instruments are issued for profit or on behalf of for-profit or private organizations. Section 2. The 7% insurance premium tax rate to be imposed and collected under this ordinance is intended to be for the period of July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2027, unless extended by an act of the Georgetown City Council in accordance with KRS 91A 080 subsection 1. Section 3. If any section, subsection, paragraph, sentence, clause, phrase, or a portion of this ordinance is declared illegal or unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such declaration shall not affect the remaining portions hereof. Section 4. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 5. This ordinance shall be enacted pursuant to KRS 83A060, published pursuant to KRS Chapter 424, and become effective on July 1, 2026. Pursuant to KRS 91A.080, subsection 1, a copy of this ordinance shall be filed with the Commissioner of Insurance at least 100 days prior to the effective date of July 1, 2026. Publicly introduced and read for the first time February 9th, 2026.
All righty, thank you. And now you can take a breath now, okay? All right. All right. While she recovers. Now, at this time, Council, if you have some questions or want to discuss, you may do so at this time.
Mayor, I have a question. Emily, could I ask you to come up? Could I have a question about the wording? So if you go to section 2 on the last page, where it says the 7% insurance premium tax to be imposed and collected under this ordinance is intended to be for the period of July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027, unless extended by an act of the Georgetown City Council in accordance with ARS da-da-da. So that appears to say to me, and I need help understanding this, that appears to say to me that it would go back to 8% automatically, but I don't think that I called you about that and we talked about it, and I seem to remember that you said that it would take an act of the council to put it back to 8%.
The wording's a little
The way it's worded, it says that it's intended for 1 year and that it would go back to 8% unless there was an action from the council. But when we talked, I thought I understood that it takes an act of council to change it from 7 to 8.
So what was requested in the ordinance was to, for the period, I guess the next fiscal year, was to reduce the tax rate, the insurance premium tax rate from 8% to 7% for the upcoming fiscal year. It was also requested that there be a sunset clause, and the purpose of the sunset clause essentially sets that specific expiration date for that law. So unless you take an, as a body, you act to extend whatever is coming to a close. The purpose of a sunset clause is essentially to force you all to reevaluate and look at the law and what it is that you're sunsetting, putting an end to, because the circumstances under which you imposed this, in this case it's the tax rate, the circumstances may have changed, or there's something happening in the community that has called your attention to this, and so you've addressed it for a certain period of time, but then it comes to an end and it's time to either send it back or change it to something different. My opinion on this is it does not specifically say that it would automatically go back to 8%. I think if you want that to be the effect, you would need to put language in there that says beginning July 1 of 2027, the tax rate would be whatever percent that is. The statute, the KRS 91A 080, it does talk about changes to the tax rate being imposed by the legislative body through an ordinance. So that is where I think you would want to have some type of affirmative action or explicit action next year, whether that is to say, yes, we want to continue the 7%, no, we've evaluated what's going on and we want to change it back to 8%. It could be a 9%. You may find that you want to go lower than 7% based on what's happening in the community. So is that helpful?
Well, so there's no way that we can put in there that it will go back to 8%, because we will have, when the time comes, we can't do it this far out, because when the time comes, it will be a different council.
I would, well, not my opinion. Legal opinion, it does talk about the legislative body, and there would be, technically, even though it's the city council, the makeup of the city council will be entirely different. So I think you would want to be mindful. But several years ago, there was a provision included in one of these ordinances that did adjust the tax rate after the end of the sunset period. So it has been done here before. In researching this, I did not see that as a common practice, because I think the intent is that you evaluate it and you impose your rate based on what's going on. But that has been done here in Georgetown in the past, where you specifically say, after June 30th, or in this case, effective July 1st of 2027, the tax rate will be X amount.
So then
But
why
don't
isn't
you-
it specifically
Well,
stated?
and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, because you may have been mayor at the time, or you were on council, but this very discussion came up on insurance premium tax. It was at a sunset clause, and they let it ride out. It ended and it jumped up.
They actually, what happened before is, yes, they put it in sunset clause. And then when it came back up for a vote, the council had to go back to the public, publicly discuss it, and they struggled over it. Were they going to keep the rate that it was, or were they going to increase the rate back? They struggled over it. And at that point in time, they decided to keep the rate the same. And then later, things came along and the rate jumped back up again to where it is like the 8% now. So, yeah.
But there did have to be a council action.
Yes, and there should be. When you're talking about taxes, whether you're lowering
Right.
it or raising it, I mean,
Right.
it really should be. So it makes accountability for having the language in there like that, bringing it back next year. It makes accountability to the council to say, okay, we need to raise it back to 8%. And we may need to raise it back to 8%. We may not get a big lump sum coming back. But then it comes to the public, accountability on the council's part to say, we need to raise it, we need back that $1 million because this, that, or the other thing has happened. So the public absolutely knows we're taking accountability. We're going to raise the tax back up, but we're taking accountability to it. I think we're taking accountability to take it down and let the public know that we're just talking about this for a year. It's going to have to come back next year. We're forcing it to come back next year. When we look at the budget, take accountability in it. Whoever's up here, take accountability into it next year. And like she said, there could be something dramatic, let's hope not, pray not, happen over the next year, and it comes back in a 7, then it goes to 9 instead of going back to 8.
But anyway, I just think it's accountability to bring it back to the council. Because we're justifying why, or I asked Emily to put it into the language justifying why we're taking down just a little. And then next year, if you take it back up, then justify why we're taking it back up and what the need was and what was facing the council and all that.
It seemed, when I first read this, it seemed like it was automatically going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think some people might have thought that it reads that way, that we're just saying we're doing this for 1 year, but we really aren't saying that. We're
Right.
saying, we're changing it to 7, and we'll go over it again next year.
But-
And that, go ahead, sorry.
I think the key wording is unless extended. I mean, to me, that says we don't have to do anything to extend it. The way that reads, unless extended.
It's the way it reads to me, too.
It's the way it reads to me, too. And that's why I brought it up again.
Yeah.
Because the way it reads says that unless the 7% is extended, you have to take a council action only to change it back to 8.
But don't you also need?
No, wait a
to
minute, I said
notice
that
the-
backwards.
said that, yeah.
I said it backwards.
But don't you need to take action to the Commissioner of Insurance to be able to invoke the change one way or the other?
They just have to know.
My reading of the statute, and I'm happy to do some more research on this and talk with people to see if that would be helpful. We do have a small window that we're working with. But my read, and if I'm misunderstanding you, please let me know. Any change to this particular tax rate, city council would have to impose that by amending this insurance premium tax rate ordinance. So I'm not certain unless you take an actual action to either change it back in a separate ordinance next year. I'm not sure that's the effect of the statute. I don't want to speak out of turn, but my reading on it and my take is that next year, any change, whether it's extending it, the 7%, and continuing that into the next fiscal year, so you want to continue the 7% rate, or if you're going to change the rate back to 8% that you have currently, you would have to have some type of legislative act in the form of an ordinance to amend that tax rate.
So whether you keep it at 7 or where you go to 8, you're going to have council action to say, we're going to keep it as it is at 7, or we're going to bump it up back to 8 where it was.
That is the intention of the sunset clause, is to
And
force action.
I appreciate that the intention is laid out here, because it does say, we're taking this seriously, and we feel like it's only because of this, but some of us may not be here next year. And I think we talked about, we can't make a decision now that would be relevant to the next council. You can't bind another council to what that vote would be. So,
Well, that's not necessarily true, because if you use that logic, the 8% was already bound to the current council that's sitting there, so that logic's not quite. The reason why, and there's a time factor on this, is because it's bound by the budget. Because when we pass the budget for 26, 27, you have bound the next council, even though it's going to be different, you've bound the next council to that budget. So this is your money, part of your money, whether you have it or you don't have it in that budget.
but from my explanation that I got, Emily helped me here, the explanation I got is that if we can't right now say, we can't through the end of this year say that we want that to go back to 8%. We can't do that because that's a change that would take place with a new council.
That's a change that will take place because of the way the law is set up, that the insurance the money is collected. The insurance company has to be notified and the money is collected.
Do they have to be notified if you stay the same?
No, so the way the statute reads, anytime you change the tax rate, that's when you have to notify
That's what
the
I'm
Department
saying.
of Insurance.
Yeah.
So in past years I can't remember off the top of my head the last time it was increased, but between that period and potentially now, except for that first year where the tax rate was changed, there was no notice because it was the same. Like,
It's the same.
and the purpose of the notice is this, to the state, is so that they can notify the insurance companies about the tax rates that they're gonna have to deal with.
Let me just throw something out here, and you, shoot it down. Could another section be added to state that unless extended by an act of the Georgetown City Council, it will go back to 8%?
This is your all's ordinance, and if you want to put that in there, you can do that. There's always a chance that the next even if you do that, the next council could still vote on this issue and evaluate and change it. But if you want to add that language, you can certainly do it. This council, not this council, a past council has done that.
So by doing that, we will have to come back and have is that would be an amendment to that, or would you have to do another first reading over, since we're adding that language to it?
I would consider that a substantive change because you're trying to clearly articulate an action that would happen.
Okay.
That's not already set forth here.
That's what I thought so.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, so we would have to go, if we to add that particular language to that, then we will have to, have another first reading, and then a second reading with that change and then involved.
And so
Okay.
the deadline for the notice to the Department of Insurance is March 23rd. So you would have 2 meetings between now and then, I believe.
Mhm.
Let me take this in just a little bit different direction, because I'm still very interested in getting more input from people in our town about how this would impact. I've had 4 or 5 people call me because they knew that this was being talked about. And when I ask them, and I always want, I've been misquoted on this, but I always want to hear from my constituents. I always want transparency, and I always want to know the intricacies of what we're doing, both at a microcosmic and a macrocosmic level. And to me, changing a revenue stream is a big deal. And we need to be very careful about taking even 1% away and the impact that $1.1 million might have on a budget, especially since we're moving into needing to hire a lot of fire personnel for a new fire station. And the interest that collectively millions of dollars together can make over a year in interest. And so when I talked to the 4 or 5 people, I said, would you rather have, and they gave me an estimate of what this might give them based on their insurance premium costs. Some of them it was $30. Some of them it was $50. I didn't hear anybody that was in the 100 or 200, so I might not be talking to those people. Businesses, it would be a bigger impact. But when I said, would you rather have that $1.1 million added to some of the other surplus and do some of the quality of life things and the safety things that our city is trying to do? Immediately they said, oh, would I rather have $35 or would I rather have that money go to the new fire station or go to the outdoor swimming pool or go to some of these other capital projects that we are trying to do? And one person said, if it would mean that we can get new water pipes underneath the ground quicker, and some of this could go for some of the water mitigation things. We have a lot of capital projects that we have talked about, but we've never had a surplus like this to be able to move forward with them. And to me, it seems like removing possibly, and I'm not fully decided on this, I want to hear from more people on the street. Which would you rather have? Would you rather have us keep that $1.1 million, accrue interest, decide capital projects more holistically at a macrocosmic level, or would you rather see us give you that 1% back? And then possibly next year have to come back and say, guess what? We need that revenue stream, and now we need to raise your taxes. This council has not raised any taxes, and I'm proud of that. I don't know that I would want to do that necessarily next year. That never goes over well. But nor do I want to handicap some of these things that people have been waiting a long time to be able to give back to the public. So I want to hear from my constituents. I don't care if I get 400 calls. I want to know, which would you rather have this council do?
Well, and to piggyback on that, you know, we had a meeting last week, and we talked about the new fire station, and we talked about the timeline involved. And the timeline showed that we wanted to add 9 firefighters in the next budget. And that's about $1 million.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about giving back $1 million that would pay for those 9 firefighters. That, I mean, we had a presentation, we didn't make a decision, we haven't done that yet. But that was the timeline that was involved. And to have the excess that we had, good fortune that we had, it comes at a great time, because I'm the kind of person who wants to pay for things in cash where we can, and we want to build a fire station next year. And so that money is here, and we can use it for that. Or honestly, the only people that are going to get $200 in a year's time are big businesses. It's not you and me. It's not, I mean, I'm middle class as can be. It's not even $50 a year. It's not even $40 a year. And, you know, to be able to do things like a swimming pool, to be able to build our fire station, to have this recurring revenue, to pay our firefighters that we want. I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody here, but it was a great plan that we got to see, and a timeline that we have the good fortune to be able to work with. And so, to me, the language, I asked that question because I was confused, because it looks like it would go back to 8%. That's not the biggest question for me. The biggest question is, which one do we want?
Exactly.
And
Well, we can do both. With this, I've been around here the longest. The city of Georgetown is in the best financial shape it has been ever. I do believe, I can go back and say ever, that it has been. We've got money in the bank. We've got CDs that are in the bank, growing interest on it. We're growing community. That is what we've talked about, that's causing issues, but it's also giving us our money that we need. More than likely, with the growth that will come, you'll have more insurance that will come in than what's even anticipated. So giving back a small percent, 1% to the public. Do you realize that when you give back to the public, then let them make their decisions of how they spend their tax dollars, it actually goes back in our community. The statistics is it goes back 7 times over. So actually what you're doing is allowing people to put it back into their community, and that will generate, if we're talking $1 million, that will generate $7 million back into the community, and allowing people to make that decision. And I really think, and I'm going to be bold when I say this, I really think you're more scared about having to raise a tax to come back and raise a tax next year than to give it back. We can give it back at this point in time, and we make decisions on the taxes every year. We make decisions where we increase property taxes, and we increase property taxes every year, whether you do all the other taxes that we do. So be accountable, and if you disagree, so be it. Leave it alone like it is and disagree and vote no, that you don't want to give any taxes back when we can. But if you want to, then next year, be accountable. Show people, hey, I've got a responsibility here. Yes, we're going to have to do this, and it's going to be a tax increase. Give a tax decrease and get a tax increase. We're still going to be able to pay for all the projects that we've talked about the one night that we came through here, and all the projects that were on the table, even including leaving that $1 million in there. We were sound.
I'm not afraid of voting for something that I believe is right.
Okay.
And not at all. And I agree with you 100% that we should give back. I think the difference is in how we give back. I think that your idea is one, and my idea is another.
That's true. That's true.
And, you know, giving back with with $40, giving back in extra fire protection, swimming pools. We could probably do all of it and spend all of the money that we have, but I don't think that's responsible either.
Well, I don't
That's to my opinion.
We're not going to spend, even with doing that, we're not going to spend all the money that we have with that. But, you know, our difference is, yes, there's things the city needs to do, the city wants to do, the city's going to do. But I do think people have the right to their money when we can do that and take it back and let them make the decisions of what they do with their money, even if it's pennies. That's why I think you all are thinking, well, it's pennies, it's not important to people. Every cent these days, with things that people are going through, every single cent is important to people.
Let me, put an example out there. You're a business owner. You know, there's other business owners in here. If you have one really, really good year, are you going to lower your prices for your customers?
I do. If I can lower my prices for my customers, yes, because the anticipation is that they're going to buy more because they've got more money to buy more things with. I do lower my prices. You know, that's the bad thing about our economy right now. All the food prices have gone up, which, hey, maybe you'll get enough to go buy some eggs. But all the food prices have gone up and they haven't gone down.
And I'm only trying to bring up points for people to think about here.
Yeah.
Think about this. You know, this is a one-time infusion of surplus, okay? I look at it from my standpoint, or anybody's standpoint, if you get a bonus at work, are you going to go out and add a monthly expense on it? No. You're going to take that money, you're going to pay off a bill, you're going to put a roof on your house, or you're going to do something else with it. You're not going to add a monthly expense because it's not guaranteed. That net profits is not guaranteed. It could drop back down next year. If we have a bad economic downturn, that's going to drop. And not only the net profits, your occupational tax is going to drop, which we are heavily dependent on.
Right.
So I think those things, we just need to think about these things
But the difference
going
is,
forward.
you know, I really think the difference is we're looking at it incorrectly. This is the people's money. It's all about the people's money. And I know I'm talking little bit amounts, but what you were talking about, if you got a bonus at work, that's your money. You earn that money. We're talking about the people's money. We didn't earn that money. But yes, we're responsible for their money.
Yes, we are responsible for their money. And, you know, as I believe Tammy stated, you know, that money can be used to benefit more people through special troop projects like the fire station or the police station expansion or quality of life projects. You know, I just want everybody to think about it in those terms. You know, I just run rough numbers. You know, just say if it's 1.1, 1.2 million, if, you know, we take that out of our, out of our recurring revenue, you know, we do these projects, you're going to be looking, you know, possibly bonding another 1.1, 1.2 million dollars. The cost of that, from anywhere from 3 to 5% bond rate over a 30-year bond, is upwards of 1.8 to 2.3 million dollars. So, you know, that's a lot of money. Granted, it's over 30 years, but that's a lot of money. And I just want people to really think about that.
Well, it's just something Tammy said in your all's meeting the other day, because actually I wrote it down. And she was talking about something else, but she said a little bit of money that would help a lot of people. So this is a little bit of money going back to a lot of people in our community. So.
Believe me, I am for, cutting taxes. But when we get a one-time infusion, you know, I just caution against doing it. And, you know, when this comes back, if this goes to 7% and it comes back to raise it back up to 8, are you going to vote for it? To back up to 8?
I don't vote for, I don't vote for tax increases, so yeah, put me on the line. I'm not going to vote for it. There's about only one I've ever voted for. But the bottom line is, have accountability, and we'll vote for it next year.
So, you know.
And when are you going to lower taxes? You said you would like to lower taxes. When are you going to do that? When's the last time that you lowered taxes?
I mean.
You're trying to be responsible with the money.
You know, we haven't raised taxes, and we've passed up. We've passed up on opportunities to put in recurring revenue. You know, The stormwater utility fee, we passed up on that because we didn't want to impose that on the citizens. You know, if there was a way we could do it and do it across the board to where it wouldn't impact us or potentially have negative impact on it, yes, I'd love to do it.
I think one thing that I think you just keeping in mind that years ago, you know, we were talking about 4 years ago, we were talking about a Fire Station 4. And one of the big hiccups with that we didn't have a revenue stream that could possibly add those much-needed personnel. So that's something else to keep in mind. You know, we're in a business of services. So you got to remember that, you know, you don't want to end up where you're cutting services because this would impact us.
Well, here's something
Just a minute, let me get to Kim because I think he had asked. Then I'll get to you, Todd. And he had his hand raised for about an hour, so I'm going to make sure he sits here. And then, Todd, I'll let you go if you would, hold on. And then, Michael, if I'll let you go, Mr.
Thank you, Mayor. So one of the things I just want to add to this discussion is these are net profits taxes. This community is limited, and every community across the Commonwealth is limited to certain ways to be able to raise the funds necessary to be able to provide the services that we have. And not only are we providing services, but we're having to maintain everything that we have. And for the communities that have the good fortune of growing responsibly, then you have to grow those services in concert with that. Nothing gets cheaper. So the cost of services keep going up, even though we're providing the same services, and it costs more. We have talked about where this money is, the people's money. These net profits are business dollars that are being infused into the community to support the community. So they're not necessarily everybody's dollars until they get in the till. And, you know, we keep hearing over the course that business needs to pay more. Well, they are paying more when they have good profits. And it's very cyclic. One of the things that, from a business perspective, we have said in the various businesses I've been connected with, that net profits should not be something that you plan for, because it's like that bonus that you mentioned. So those should be for one-time expenses that we have or that we're planning. And this community has a lot of those. It's not just the fire station. We're talking about, you know, all the community benefits, the pool and all those things that are on our plan. But we're also getting ready to do a police department study because we're out of room there. Dispatch, we're out of room there. So as we grow, we've got to continue to pay for those as well. So being able to put those in a fund and a dedicated plan and not impact negatively a guaranteed source of income that is already dwindling. So I think we need to keep those things in mind. And these big infusions of money, just like, you know, the monies that we got from the federal government, you know, we spent all those, right? Or we're almost done. And, you know, what do we have in terms of facility improvements, capital improvements, and things like that to show for that? It's incumbent upon us to be able to develop those plans and develop those strategies to fund those. And when we have the good fortune to have these wild swings, then we've got resources to be able to pull the trigger and make them happen. So I just want to make sure that we're keeping those things in mind.
Mr. Stone.
Well, some of us were on the council, some of us weren't, when the fire station came up a number of years ago. I stood alone and voted for the fire station. Some people think you voted for it. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. You were there. Some people said, oh, we can't have a fire station that's gonna sit empty. We can't do it. So instead, we voted down the fire station that was gonna cost us $3.5 million. Now we're gonna be looking at a fire station that's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million. But instead, we turned around at the very next vote and voted on the money pit. So, did it need to be happened? Yes. Did we need the Taj Mahal? No. There's a lot of things that could be done that we didn't have to have over there. But that's already voted on, that's already done, it's gonna be great, looking forward to it. But here we are, on a first reading, beating a dead horse. If we want to make a change to something, make the change. Otherwise, let it go. We're going to be back in 2 weeks, and you can vote yes, you can vote no, you can let it go. But quit beating the dead horse. Move forward.
Well, just to say that it was not a money pit, because I think that's the most thing we have done for this community is to do that. And it was much needed. So I may have to disagree with on that, because I think, because I think that it is important that for our people, which is going to be something good, a actual place where we conduct business, where everybody can come in and take part and be able to view this. So that's just me on that one. But let's move on. I think you had a question here.
Yeah, I sure did. As we explore this, there's a couple interesting, viewpoints that are completely neutral. And thank goodness we're not voting on this tonight, because we need to think about this a little bit more. But I'm all for tax relief. I think we all are, some measure of tax relief. I don't know if this is enough, and frankly, because Scott County and Scott County is the 5th wealthiest county out of the 120 counties in the entire state. And $20, $50, it just doesn't impact most of the people in the county. It's very helpful, but it just doesn't really have that kind of zing. We're used to getting presidential stuff, and so that's just something to consider. But another thing to consider is we are also pretty much the lowest taxed community, around. So a lot of other communities wonder how we do what we do with such a small budget. I mean, we have, no bias. We all agree the best emergency services, public works, police, everything, best staff everywhere, and we do it on a shoestring budget. So the question is, and of course it doesn't have to be decided tonight, how big of an impact would 1 or 1.2 million make on our budget? Maybe it won't make a big difference this year. Maybe it'll have to be adjusted over the next year or two. But these are great things to think about as we move forward. And I really value everything everybody said. Everybody's made some really great points. Not since Backyard Chickens has anything been this divisive and polarizing and interesting, but I really admire everybody, especially Councilmember Hambrick. I think I think you made some great points, and I think everybody has so far.
Okay, so we have
Just
one more here. Go ahead.
No, I agree with Councilmember Hambrick. I'd like to hear from my constituents also. And I agree with Councilman Stone, like, we need to go on and, think about this, whatever. Let's get it over with. We can vote yes, no, whatever, and move on. Like, I don't want to use the same exact words that you use, but I agree with that. But I want to throw it out there that I do want to hear from my constituents, and please call me, like you said, because I'm in between here right now. But I do want to get back to the community. I want to make sure we get the pool, I want the fire station, all, maybe an amphitheater or something like, but let's just move forward.
All right. Now that we have had a healthy discussion on this, everybody had their day in court. So
I
now,
love a spirited debate.
yeah, spirited debate, and sometimes you have to be ready. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I think she's going to take what you want us to do, right? Next
So just
step.
something for consideration, just avenues for how to collect public comment on this topic. Since you are going to take this feedback, it sounds like, and you'll use that to help with your decision-making on this ordinance, it might be worth setting up kind of a limited, I don't know how you would phrase it. I don't know if you'd want to do like a full public hearing. We don't have to do that for this type of tax rate change. Or if you're creating a designated contact person or email account where people in the public can direct their comments in writing, creating a space for them to show up either outside of the council meeting. Just something to think about, that you do have that path to collect extra feedback from constituents. Obviously, more than welcome to contact each and every one of you, and you will hear what you have to say. But if your plan is to integrate that into the record as part of this conversation, you just might want to think about that.
Question, could you have like a survey done? Is that, there's a way, could we do a survey where how people, say what they wanted to do with this? I mean, I'm just asking. Is that possible?
You can always do a survey.
Do a link with a survey, and people can actually answer, says, are you in favor of this particular measure? And that's another way you can hear from people.
Mayor, here's my thoughts on that. When I'm talking to people, and I'm not against a survey, but surveys don't allow engagement and depth of conversation about the topic. They ask one narrow question, and the answer has to be yes or no. But when we've talked about this, I don't think we're beating a dead horse. I think we're deliberating the way that we've been asked to deliberate. And I want to continue to deliberate, and I invite conversation, but I want it to be more than a sterile survey. I really want to say, so let me understand you more clearly, and let me tell you what this might impact. And I think that when you talk to people like that, it's more valuable to me than a data sheet.
So, so I'm going to ask this question. So, since do we need to add that language into it, or are we just going to simply, because I think Emily's trying to, she asked the question early that somebody wanted to add that into that. So, if not, then we just take things as it is, and then
Mayor, I would say take the app based on the conversation tonight, and we are on a time period. Take the ordinance as it is, but everybody listen, let your constituents talk to you, and hear back from them on what their opinions are, is to help you make your final decision. But to leave the ordinance as it is, and we'll just vote. We've had a first reading, vote on it next time around, because I would say just counting straws at this point in time, it's probably not going to pass. So why you go back to do more work on it and it's not going to pass? But we'll see what happens, and maybe the constituents will change people's minds.
The other option, because we do have the time limit for when you would have to notify, to vote on the change, and then if it were to change, to notify the state. We do have 2 meetings, so if you did want more time and you wanted to, have more discussion at the next meeting, you don't have to have the second reading and vote at the next meeting. You do have that next meeting. So just trying to keep things straight, that there is still a little bit more time if you feel like you need that time, but you don't have to necessarily. So unless you make a motion or something to kick the second reading to that first March meeting, our typical process is that the second reading would be slated at the next meeting, which would be February
23rd?
23rd.
23rd, and then the next one.
Just clarifying the kind of timeline that we're working with.
And so the March meeting would be March 9th, would be the next one. The first one, the second Monday in March would be for us, would be March 9th. So that would be the deadline that we have to have a decision at that point in time. So that gives them enough time to make that, if there's a change, to make sure that we contact the insurance group by statute so they can make that change. All right, we good? All right, let's move on to Chase. Are you still here? Or have you left the building? Oh, you're still here. Great. All right. So Chase is going to talk about the item A, B, C, and D, but let's take them one at a time. Vehicle purchases.
Mayor, if you would just allow me very briefly to revisit what you discussed on Royal Spring Park, if I could
Sure.
just add a few
Absolutely.
things. Please know that we've heard some concerns about this project, specifically the impact it's going to have on Royal Spring Park. Council members have reached out to me, and just know that we've heard those. Also know this project is imperative. It has to be done. It's a large service area that the wastewater goes through this one pipe. It's one of the oldest sewers in the system, and it's just got to be done, unfortunately, and it has to be done in an area that is very sensitive, that nobody wants disrupted. But I wanted to share just a few things, if I could, that I hope can ease some of these concerns. First of which, we do recognize the sensitivity, the history, the value of Royal Spring Park and what it brings to downtown Georgetown as just one of the many focal points, and specifically within the park and the history that it provides, the two cabins that are there. The north cabin adjacent to the baptismal steps, that's the leach cabin, and then the southern cabin that's adjacent to the KU substation. We put in provisions within our construction contract with Cleary Construction that we could adequately work around or work on the cabins as needed to get the sewer installed. So that's kind of just the first part. We knew this was going to be an issue, so we've planned for that. So we have funding in the construction contract. They know that we're going to have to do some things with these cabins. So I really credit Cleary Construction is they brought in, as one of their subcontractors on the project, they brought in a gentleman, and his dad, his father was, I believe, as what he's conveyed to me, is that he put those cabins, or at least the leach cabin, in, and he's done maintenance on those cabins. This is his son now that worked with him on these cabins, and he's on the construction team. So anything that's going to be dealing with these cabins, we've got kind of the resident expert to help us through. So that's kind of first important thing. We know we're going to have to work around these. We're going to have to move these. We know that we're going to possibly look at relocating should the right opportunity arise. And if it ends up being the right thing, not in any way saying that this is what needs to happen, but if one of the cabins is not in good condition, do we need to just dispose of it? Is this the right time? We have all options on the table right now for these cabins. We know there's going to be impact to the park. When you're putting in a sewer pipe, it's not a pretty operation, but we know how to do that pretty well, and we know how to restore the property pretty well. We generally, I believe, we leave things better than where we found it when we go through and do a project in that corridor. I think you can look to the South Sewer Extension as a good example of that. So I think we've got options. We can make this work. We will consult, or have consulted. We'll continue to consult with parks, with tourism, with mayor, with council. I think we can do this. I also think that if we can reframe this as just an opportunity, yes, we're going to impact Royal Spring Park. It's not going to be a pretty place in the year 2026. However, I'm going to have a contractor there, and I'm going to have construction equipment there. I'm going to have track hose, dump trucks. So it's also an important time for us to look at with parks and say, what else needs to happen? It's going to be messed up, and we're going to fix it. Let's not do that more than once. So if there's other items that can be brought to my attention, no, we can't add $1 million change order for park upgrades, but if there are smaller things which people have called me and said, hey, can you look at this? That's an easy change order for us to do now. We tear things up once, we fix it once, and we leave it better than what it is today. It's not going to be a fun 2026, but if we have to do this project, and I think we've got the right team that can help us work specifically with these cabins, that we're not going to lose any value in Royal Spring Park. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Because of the calls that I've had, and again, if you have questions, please give me a call, and I know we can make this work. So.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, now let's talk about purchasing a vehicle.
Yes, sir. So,
all right, so you want to purchase some vehicles, right?
I want to purchase 3 vehicles if council will allow. Point back to September of last year, September 2025, I brought you all our one budgeted truck replacement. I think at that time, when you all approved that, I told you at that time, that's probably something that we went way too conservative. It's not really feasible in our budget that we're only going to be able to live on one truck. So, and then also before the one truck in September of '25, our previous truck purchases was two vehicles in December of '24. So I just think that shows year to year, we're not going crazy on vehicle purchases, but we do operate a fleet currently of 42 vehicles, and the average age of that fleet is 10 years old. I've got a new board member that helped with managing the police department fleet, and he's already told me he's going to make me work on that. He did not like seeing that our average age of our fleet is 10 years old. And so this was kind of step number one. But currently, our next meeting with the board, I'm going to be asking them to surplus 8 of our fleet vehicles, 8 trucks that the O&M expense vastly outweighs the value of the current sales value of the vehicle. So we're going to be going from 42 to 34 vehicles. And so I'd like to request your all's approval to purchase 3 trucks. This will be a 2026 Ram for our wastewater treatment plant number 1, and as well as that department covers plant 3 and stamping ground, a 2026 Tacoma for the water treatment plant, and a 2026 Silverado for our distribution department. That will be more of a specialty truck as they build that one out with toolboxes, tool bed, and equipment that's actually mounted on that frame. And while these trucks, they're not in our current budget, we have not stopped, even though I've not budgeted for more trucks, we've not stopped putting money into our vehicle depreciation savings account. So we have the funds to cover these 3 trucks, and we're requesting your approval at this time.
Okay, Councilor, at this time, you've heard the request. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Ms. Brent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Minke. Now, are there questions? So let me understand it. You're going to take the 8 vehicles and surplus those, okay? So you should get some type of money from those, or what are we doing with those?
We're likely going to just put those out for bid.
Okay,
for somebody
and then
to
whatever
purchase,
money you
whoever-
get that will be also put back in for maybe the purchase of those vehicles.
And
the
if
new
we don't
ones.
get anything for them, I've already talked, I believe after you go through that process, if they're not roadworthy, we don't get a bid. I've already talked to the fire department about, they always have the need for training that they can bring out their equipment to practice chopping up those vehicles. They've already said if we don't get anything for them, that they're happy to take them, so.
So men with axes, that's what you're going to do with it, right?
I hope
Okay.
that we get money for them. I'm sorry, Chief.
All right. Any other questions and or comments? All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item B, Herrick Company Incorporated for $18,513.
Thank you. This is a change order on wastewater treatment plant 2. We are replacing what I believe is the original grit removal equipment from the, when the plant was constructed. It might have been put in a later date, but as pictures that I've reviewed and original plans, it looks like it was part of original equipment. Okay. So quite a few years old. We have this contractor, Herrick, they're already under contract. What we got into this, and just as while they're there working on this equipment, what we'd like to do is add some access hatches that we can more easily access this equipment in the future for O&M. So this involves cutting into some concrete and putting some aluminum grating down as a walkway. It's just to give us greater access, and this is something that we're looking at right now while somebody's on site versus doing this separately, having to pay a contractor to mobilize and demobilize a second time. Herrick can take care of this for us while they're there, and we have gone through and had this amount in this change order also. We've run that up the flagpole for our Fund 2 at Toyota as well. So we're recommending this for approval.
You have heard the request. Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion made by Mr. Hampton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second made by Ms. Hambrick. Are there further questions and or comments? All those in favor of the motion for Herrick Company Incorporated for $18,513 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item C, Hazen and Sawyer for $14,500.
So this is an expense that is not through rate revenue. This is a pass-through cost that will be reimbursed by a developer that's working on the Georgetown Commons project. Developer came to us and they requested that they'd like to look at if they add a booster pump station or water pumps individually in different buildings on their development, can they get a higher level of service? We said that if they're going to do that analysis, we recommend using our consultant that does our modeling and tracks our system level of service, and that goes to their benefit, so this will be at their cost. So this is borne by Hogan Real Estate. They have to reimburse us for the cost of this analysis, and then if the analysis shows that they want one of their tenants, future tenants wants a certain level of service, or if and they want to put an individual pump in, or if they want to put a site-wide booster pump station in, that's the recommendation from the engineer, then that is an additional cost that is, again, borne by Hogan Real Estate. But it also gives us the benefit that anything that they do on this site, we make sure that a booster pump is not going to adversely impact our customers that are not on the site. So, pass-through cost.
All right, you have heard the request. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Mitchell. Do I have a second? Second made by Mr. Crisp. Are there further questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion for Hazen and Sawyer for $14,500 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that it's passed. Item D, C Square Excavating LLC for $125,033.78.
Okay, if this sounds familiar, this was approved by council on December 22nd of this past year in 2025. This is us doing a sewer project, a sewer extension for the Oxford Elementary School. I just point out that within that packet, you all approved this work, but I didn't have a purchase order in there. I like to have the board and council approve, even if it's the work, also with a purchase order, so I'm just bringing you back a purchase order. That's all this is. It's all the exact same information that you approved in December. This is passed through, the board's paying for this. The Board of Education is part of the project. We're doing it because we've got good bid prices and a good contractor that can do it within their time frame.
All right, you have heard the motion. Do I have, excuse me, you have heard, you've heard the request. Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Stone. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second made by
I
Ms.
have a question.
Second made by Ms. Brent. Now is the question, Ms. Hambrick.
In the packet that you sent out, I think there was a little more explication of this there as far as the date of completion. And you said that you hope that it could be done by the time that the Oxford Elementary School's date of opening. What, would this handicap our school system? Because I know if one school goes down, the whole school system tends to not open. I remember when we had to do that temporary bridge. What happens if there's a delay and you don't meet that? Because it seems like it's a pretty narrow deadline.
I can't answer what happens, but I can say I think within the agreement, I pushed out till June or
June
July.
30th or something?
I actually think we're going to be done in March.
In
So
March?
I
Okay.
gave us some.
So you think
I gave
that's
us some
enough?
cushion. I know that we'd already, even though I'm bringing the purchase order, I had them order manholes and pipe. This isn't a difficult project.
Okay, good. All right, that was my only question. Thanks.
All right, any other questions and/or comments? All those in favor of the motion for C Square Excavating LLC for $125,033.78 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you, as always, Chase. As always, you do good work. Thank you. Item 12, which is City Engineer, Municipal Order, Apex Design Group, Main Street Brick Sidewalk and Rehabilitation Project. Mouthful.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
So this is a project we've been talking about for a little while, a good time. And we received 3 bids for the project, and this is the low bid. in the amount of $233,846.30. They'll be working on Main Street on the rehabbing the sidewalks down there, specifically the brick, and focusing on that. They're also going to pressure wash the sidewalks and clean them up and do that kind of thing too. So I ask for your approval.
All right, you have heard the request. At this point in time, do I have a motion? Motion made by Ms. Mitchell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Ms. Hambrick. Are there further questions and/or comments?
Just one quick question, Mayor. Eddie, so
Yes, sir.
with the implementation of this activity, is there a designated communicator with the businesses and all that to be able to keep that,
Yes.
those lines of communication
Yeah.
open?
Yeah, I've reached out to Lori Saunders about this project, and she would probably be the best point person because she knows all those people really, really well. And I've asked her to help me with that effort, communicating with those people, because I don't personally know a lot of them. And I think she will be a good asset, and she's agreed to do that.
Okay. Because I think the other component is the general public.
Yes.
Because of parking and, you know, maybe some limitations in those stretches and that kind of thing. So if there's a good communication plan that can be developed and implemented, just so everybody knows what's going on.
Oh, I agree. I
and how to
agree. That's a
plan
high impact
appropriately.
area.
I think it's something we can look at and probably put on our social media platforms where we can alert the public that that's going on, that project's going on. That's how we usually do when we have like a road being, you know, detoured because of something working on. We try to get it on our platform, so we'll get staff to work on that to get it, you know,
Yeah.
that part of it.
No,
Thank you.
That's a good comment, yeah, thank you.
All right, so is there any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion for the Apex Design Group for Main Street Brick Sidewalk Rehabilitation Project, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that it passed. Item 13, Stacy's coming back up, our Finance Director. Municipal order for Furniture Solutions, City Hall furniture order.
Yes, I wanted, obviously, we wanted to get some of these items ordered. I know for the council chairs, there's a price increase later this month, and then with some of the desks, can take 4 to 6 weeks, so just making sure we get everything ordered in time. There may be some additional items on a follow-up order. I'll talk about that more in item B with the City Hall financial update, but this is just our kind of first order of kind of what we called our essentials, so that we're not moving more furniture around than we have to. So just a note, the pictures that are in there are of the products we're getting, but they may not be that exact color. We're probably going to make the chairs black, not cream colored, obviously to not show dirt, et cetera. So those were just stock photos of those items.
All right. You have heard the request. Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion by Mr. Hampton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Are there further questions and/or comments?
Yes. Oh, go ahead. Stacy, on the council chambers section, I see.
Yes.
I see the seating, 72 chairs
Yes.
for the, I guess, public. I'm not seeing any actual, chairs for council.
No, we had an option selected, and then once we got the price back on it, it was very expensive. So we will be looking for some other options for those.
Okay, I'm asking for Karen.
Yes. Well,
Yes,
send
it's
me
very
all your hopes and dreams. We'll see what we can find. Like I said, we had a very nice chair picked out, and once we got the quote back, it was a little more than we
And
thought
I
was
said, if I have
reasonable,
to,
so.
I will bring my own chair, and that will save us some tax
You
money.
will have chairs. We may not order those from this company, but we'll make sure that there will be chairs.
Yeah, keep that thought in mind, because you may have to bring your own chair. So
That's exactly right.
No, I'm just kidding. Go right ahead.
I hear 5-gallon buckets are pretty cheap.
Is it my understanding that those furniture purchases are going to come out of what is assumed to be
Yes,
contingency
and when
fund?
we talk about item B, I'll show you, but this is coming out of what would have been our contingency balance, or that we had
And-
expected
and
for FF&E.
We're pretty sure that that's set.
Yes, we'll talk about that. There is a final change order that's still being actively negotiated, but when we talk about item B.
All right.
Even with this order, we've still got a cushion, and that's why we didn't want to bring, like I said, there's some additional items we would like to order, but we need that final change order amount before we're comfortable ordering anything else.
I see.
Question?
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
my question also is on the council chambers itself, so the 72 chairs. How does that line up with the capacity of that room?
All I'll say about this is the furniture designers went in and measured the space and laid everything out according to room capacity and space. So they have been in there, they know exactly which chairs they're putting in, how big they are, and they've measured that. I don't.
We can pull that number,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to make sure that when we're buying furniture, we're maximizing the
Yeah.
capacity.
Yes.
But also, and when I looked at the drawing, and I know that may just be for drawing purposes, but making sure that we have like side aisleways
Yes.
to allow folks to easily move in and out,
Yeah.
because we have a lot of that activity going on.
Yes, and any chairs, if, for example, if all 72 don't fit in council chambers, we will have them for overflow. There will be a few chairs outside of the city clerk's office for guests when they're waiting to do transactions, so we'll make sure, but we can get that capacity.
Okay. Any other questions and or comments? All those in favor of the municipal order for Furniture Solutions, City Hall Furniture Order, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. All right, item B, financial update.
Yes, you were sent this information out in advance. It is in draft state, as we do not know the final amount, but on the left side, I have all of the funding sources, all the transfers that have been made from general fund for the City Hall renovation project, as well as what I'm currently estimating to be our tax credit balance. And so you can see the total of all the funding sources, and then all of the project costs from construction, pre-construction, the audio-visual, the security, the parking lot asphalt. We mentioned that there was a change order to take that out of the project. Eddie had gotten a quote where we will plan on doing that through our unit price asphalt contracts. So I've put that in here, this furniture order. And the bottom line is, right now, pending the finalizing of that last change order, number 18, right now we've got about 41,000 left. So again, we're waiting on that final change order amount, but it is in here. It's under that 12,499,000, and then that's where we're at. And then depending on how that comes in, we may have an additional furniture order.
So what's the gap list of furniture or whatever else?
So the main
For
thing
that
would be
41.
the break room, and then there's probably some bookcases, lateral file cabinets, things of that nature, some additional guest chairs for the offices, things like that. Council lounge, those are the main items that are not in here. So we kind of kept the offices to bare minimum. So we'll take our chairs with us if we, can't get anything else, but just kind of getting those big pieces of furniture that are harder to order.
All right.
So hopefully we'd be able to get all of that within the next one, but we just wanted to be 100% certain on what that last change order amount was.
So do we have that list?
Yes. Yeah, we have another one. We're getting some additional quotes on that.
So not to oversimplify, but essentially, and a lot of credit to Stacy, I know it's not in her job description, but she's handled the entire communication with the furniture folks. So we've broken it into an essentials order, which is absolutes such as, the public-facing spaces, public engagement areas, and then, basic office desks where necessary, and then a non-essentials order, which is, it's not a wish list. It's we'll need these at some point, but in the event that our contingency doesn't allow, those are the spaces where we can fill in the gaps with pre-existing older stuff and phase that in. So that non-essentials list, after the final change order comes through, we will sit down and evaluate that and determine, with the delta we have in the contract, what is the most important and pressing on that list, and work through that in order to stay within the project budget. But knowing that we're still negotiating that final change order number, not comfortable bringing any of those non-essentials to you all until we have that, signed, sealed on the final change order. So So once we have that number, we'll go through that and work with staff and determine what the highest priorities are.
All right. No other questions? Okay. Thank you, Stacy, as always. All right. Moving on now to item 14, old business. Anybody got any old business?
Just one thing, Mayor, if I may. Todd mentioned earlier the traffic study, and we were talking earlier. And I wanted to ask if we could, in either the next meeting, which, I don't know, it might be a long one if we're gonna, if we're gonna have, beat some more dead horses, I don't know. It might be a long one, but maybe the one after that, if we could have, review that report that we had. It was good information, and then kind of have Eddie do that for us, and then we can look at what the next steps were, and maybe it would also give us time to, like, come in with some kind of estimate as to what taking some of the next recommended steps are, what they would cost. So we're getting ready to be working on the budget, and that would be a good time to start doing that if we can.
Yeah, so what we can do with that is that I'll get staff on that. Maybe looking at the March 23rd meeting, because
That'd be
that would
great.
give them more time to have a conversation with Chief Allgood and Traffic Committee to find out more information that they might have on that.
That'd be
In the
great.
queue down there.
Thank you.
So, and then, once we do that, you'll have enough information to where you can give us that report again and show where we are, okay? All right. Any other old business? New business? Yes, sir.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The two different questions I've got for new business are both in the same category, and it's snow removal. And snow removal was amazing. You guys did a great job. But we've got two questions. The first one is business-related. We had some businesses reach out to us that are on North and South Broadway, complaining that their sidewalks were pretty snowy and icy. I think we tried to explain to them that typically sidewalks are not really done by the city. You work that out with your landlord if you're a business owner. That's really, you check your lease and you're kind of responsible for that. But a lot of those business owners said that they saw that the Main Street sidewalks were very clear, and they wanted to know who did those or how those were done and why their sidewalks couldn't look like that. I told them I'd ask tonight and see, do you guys have any input
Come on up. But I actually saw, I think they got private people to come in. They got private people, like the banks and them got private people to actually do some. Is that correct?
Great.
Yeah, we don't do the sidewalks.
Yes.
They clean the sidewalks, they put it to the curb where the state pushes the pile up. And then Hamilton Hinkle, they always do Main Street. They offer to us every time we have a big snow, and we thank them and we appreciate it. But I had one guy up there with them, helping them. But they, once the business owners move their snow out, we'll pick it up.
Okay.
We just haven't got to South Broadway yet. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
We've moved a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the streets in town, South Broadway was one I drove by there. Because the three of
North
us
and
was-
South Hamilton.
Or South Broadway down by Garth, where they parked, some of their customers and their businesses
Yeah.
had to park out on the street. So the snows, where the
Right.
state did it, you all didn't do that. The state left it out there.
Mhm.
If it could be kind of pushed over.
Yeah,
a little bit.
we're headed that way, but hoping we can get some more melting, but,
Great.
yeah.
Well, second
Now, they
question-
should get their snow to the snow pile. And then as we get it, either melt or we'll get it moved.
Okay, great. And then secondly, do you have any advice for homeowners who, a lot of them complain that snow plows blocked with the ice on their driveway? Do you have any advice, if we get another snow like this, what should they do to kind of either prevent that or be ready, or should they just be ready to shovel?
They need to be ready to shovel.
All right.
There's no preventing the windrowing up on it. The biggest thing is not parking in the street would help quite a bit, but
Yeah, we
can't
saw
stop
that
all
graphic going around social media where they were supposed to clear an 8-foot area off to the left of the driveway.
Who is?
Homeowners.
Oh, okay,
So the snowplow would push the snow in there, but.
No,
I
it
mean,
don't work that way.
Yeah, figured. I guess you
It's
can't
gotta
believe
go,
it.
it's gotta go somewhere around.
Yeah, I guess you can't believe
Yeah.
everything you see on social media then.
Well,
All right, well, that sounds good. I appreciate it.
and I think something, okay, and then something else is, as even I observe is, people understand when we have a snow emergency, we tell them about parking in those snow emergency areas. And when they park and they can't get out, it's a while before we're able to get in and do that. So I think that's something else we need to work with. All right, any other new business?
Mayor, so maybe, I think this probably fits better under new business than council comments. So one of the things this past week at the KLC HR seminar, one of the seminars centered around the onboarding of employees and things like that, some best practices around that. That was one of the things that I found missing when I moved from business into government, especially on council, that other than KLC training, that there really wasn't any overarching onboarding for new council people about the city in particular. And so there's some best practices there, and I'd love to help provide some suggestions there that we could look at for new council members, being one last year, to help that transition as we have new folks, and even keeping folks that are returning up to date with who does what, where, and all of those kinds of things as well.
An acronym alphabet would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly.
All right, any other new business? All right, it is item number 15, council comments. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Stone.
Thank you, sir. Turn that microphone on so Devin don't yell at me. So.
People want to hear you.
I know it. I can use a coach voice, but we don't want that. The police department did a fantastic job. Fire department did a fantastic job during this past snowstorm, and Robert and his guys did a tremendous job as well. One of the things that I did and was able to keep up with was monitoring stuff on social media platforms and would get it to Robert. So, anytime that you all see something like that, the quicker they can get that information, the better they have it, and it really helps them out know where that is. But we are going to we don't have to do a special Public Works meeting. We've got one coming up on the 18th at 4:30 at the police department, and I'm sure a lot of this stuff will be discussed, including, salt usage, where we at with salt in case we have another snow coming in. So hopefully we won't. Hopefully warm weather's coming in. So other than that, Sandra, I'm sorry I left you out of that earlier. So that's all I've got, sir.
All right, Ms. Mitchell.
Just, again, thank you to everybody for the way we covered the snowmageddon. I drove into Lexington a couple of times early on, and it was like driving on the moon. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And it made me so proud to know what was done here. The other thing is, I think we had the best communication going this time. It was, the city communicated, the council members were on Facebook sharing information. I think the newspaper had it. I think the city was ready for it, the citizens were ready for it, and everything was much appreciated. Great job.
Mr. Hampton.
I'm just going to echo Councilman Stone and Councilwoman's Leslie Mitchell's comments on the Public Works and Police and Fire. Great job. And I work in Lexington, and yes, it was a mess. I mean, you got off of a main artery, and it was almost impassable. So anyway, my last comment, and tonight on the, item, was it C, under first readings, I like a good spirited debate we had tonight. That's good. That's good for this council to do that, to get this out. I know every one of us, we want to be good stewards of taxpayer money and do what we think is best. And we all may have different ideas of what that is. But, I just encourage each and every one of our comments tonight, think about those, get those out in the community and solicit public comment on these, on this. And make sure you communicate, and we'll get through this. Thank you.
And I want to, stand hoping that, you get to your procedure, which is coming up. We'll be.
I am having major surgery.
Yep, so we want to be praying for him and
Yes.
and hoping that everything goes well and you
Thank
have a
you.
good, quick recovery.
Thank you.
All right, Miss Brent,
I'm good, Mayor. Thank you.
Miss Hambrick.
I am good as well.
Uh-oh,
Sorry.
I know. Okay, go
But
ahead.
mine's quick and not controversial. So I want to brag on John Burke and the PDA office. So this year I have one of those magic birthdays, that you make a transition. And they sent me a letter that there is a homestead exemption for anybody in this community that owns a home and they live in that home, that they can get a break on their property taxes.
If you're old.
If you're old.
Apparently you are
Yes.
now.
Not yet. But they reached out. And so if you're of that age or if you have a disability, that qualifies as well. So again, there are ways that are built into the system for folks. And if you meet any of those requirements, or will this year, you're eligible for that. And so you just need to go in, fill out a form, and talk to them, and they will tell you exactly what your reduction is. And it could be upwards of, over $400 on your property taxes, so.
And I can firsthand tell you, yep, I got a surplus that went to pay for a bill. So there you go. Yes.
Just a couple of comments on that. Piggyback off of Kim, personally, I don't think you should pay taxes after you're a certain age, but that's another story, especially on your homes. But on the insurance tax, just something I didn't say earlier, somebody asked me, said, well, why you just do 1%? And I said, are you kidding? I said, we'll be lucky if the council passes 1%. So you are proving me wrong and beating a dead horse. 19th century politics. The phrase was popularized in the House of Commons in 1859. So see, we were right. You were right on it. Here we are. But yes, I enjoyed the debate as well. So appreciate that.
Well, let's just move on with that. All right. Mr. Chris, you get to finish it up.
Nothing, thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you again. So at this point in time, no other business, but for council, this meeting is adjourned. Todd?